8:15.
8:15? Thank you.
Hey, how are you, Jonah?
I'm not all here. I'm awful out there.
It's quite
What's it
heavy.
doing right now?
Somebody should get on that.
Really, really,
Bruce,
really.
I think we have until the storm is done to have the meeting. I'll just be hanging out in here when we're done.
Got the meter in the MXU.
It's even worse at my house.
I have to hurry up because I want to go home and water the It's got it covered?
Oh, my. If not, you can have some, I've got pillows
what?
in my front yard right now.
Upper Fred.
Upper Fred and 13. I didn't make any
We have 2
fancy.
minutes.
Tammy, she drives all the time. Start the committee meetings with Streets and Public Buildings, Mr. Severance, to discuss CARPO funds for North Sandusky.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have Brian Ball here tonight, the city engineer. We're going to talk about this intersection. It is up in my neck of the woods that I, good or bad, know very well. I guess I better pull my microphone down. So I've had to migrate this intersection many times, and it is an interesting dilemma sometimes. So, Mr. Ball, would you please
Welcome,
speak to
welcome.
us?
Yeah, thanks for having us here tonight. And it was really hot, and then hopefully everybody's got it out of the rain okay. Yes, so the Central Ohio Rural Planning Organization operates sort of inside of MORPC, which we are a member of. And we have an opportunity to get some funding. All of you may remember we had applied for money on Edgewood Road, and the voters said we should not build Edgewood Road. So we've turned all of that money back, and it's the next round. So we have the opportunity to apply for a completely different project on a different side of town. So very good program. This helped us get our Route 13 South project started. So we are asking for the first money. So this project is, we've looked at all of the sort of safety areas and all the concerns, and this project sort of aligns with where this money can be used, and we have an increasing number of crashes. There was a fatality in recent history. I don't have the details of that, but we are seeing a uptick in injury crashes at this intersection. We have had requests to extend sidewalk to Clarence Court and other areas. We did a Route 13 project right when Mel was coming on the council that finished at James Street. So there's a lot of interest in extending sidewalks. The green map, so the green areas are inside the city. So this would be a cooperative project. I was able to meet with our county engineer, Cameron Keaton, today. He is going to provide a letter of support and also be a partner in this project. He does not have a project that meets the Corpo requirements, so he's going to be part of our project. We also, the mayor and I met with Clinton Township last Monday, and they have passed a resolution also becoming a partner in this project. we will go to the county commissioners next after the county engineer to ask to talk to them. So the idea is it's in and out of the city. We're serving our residents, but it is, you know, it is a significant safety issue. So the idea, we do not have a solution. So I do not have big boards with things drawn on them. So we're asking for money to work through the planning process and come up with probably 5 or 6 alternatives on how to fix the intersection, grade those, and then there will be, once we get that, that's where the public involvement will kind of go in pretty deep. Differently on this project, we are actually going door to door. So we've been to almost, not quite everybody, but we've been to most people that own property around this and have talked to them and said, hey, this is coming, there's different alternatives, and trying to get their feedback up front. So if they say, hey, I'm planning on building something here, hey, I'm planning on tearing something down, I'm concerned about my business, we're getting that information up front instead of waiting for that to come from the voters later. So that's a lot of stuff. Maybe you have some questions.
Just so we're clear, tell us exactly where this intersection is.
Okay, so it's on the screen. If you go up 13 North, which is North Sandusky, and then as you curve toward
Across the
Fredericktown,
hill
that
first.
becomes Castle Road. Then you have the offshoot that is Upper Fredericktown. And there used to be some kind of a long time ago. There was a gas station there. There was some kind of a store there at the Y. So you were at the south terminus of Upper Fredericktown Road.
So where is it in relationship to the pharmacy?
The pharmacy
Before
is
that.
kind of in the intersection, the new pharmacy, yes.
Castle Road, is it before it or after it?
So,
I think Castle Road, I thought.
so right here. Oh, that's right. So Castle Road starts, so Sandusky Street ends, because you're not at Sandusky, I guess, and then it becomes Castle Road and then Upper Fred. So
Got it.
13 is Sandusky and Castle. You also have Crestview at a weird angle. A lot of, we see a lot of risk taking. People
Yes.
trying to get from Mel's neighborhood, and then they will pass around the car at a stop sign, and then they can get T-boned because somebody's going north. And some people, like, you don't typically put your turn signal on to follow the state road, but you also don't put your turn signal on to go straight. So it's a lot of confusion. Myself, separately, the county engineer, he sat out there and did a traffic observation. We've done traffic observations. What we see is a lot of risk taking and a lot of near misses because it's 45, but some people don't get to that speed right away, and you have a lot going on with this combination intersection.
So how far down does it go? Does it hit Clarence Court? Is that going to factor into the analysis that you're doing and the problem solving?
Yeah, our goal would be the southern terminus on one side would be James Street, because we brought the sidewalk to James Street. And then the other side, the previous projects have brought sidewalks to Stump Street.
Okay.
So the project would extend to connect to those sidewalks to get our complete streets, because that's a priority for us. It's a priority for the township also. And then we would extend sidewalks north to sort of logical terminus where, as we work with the businesses, to think about where the sidewalks should end to the north and sort of west.
Council, and for the public's sake, again, we're talking about planning and design right now in that phase. Brian, if you want to tell them when you think shovel in the ground, because I do want the public to remember that probably later this year and into next year, that's when the major South Sandusky reconstruction will start. With this project on North Sandusky and into Castle Road, you're looking...
Realistically, the earliest we'd be doing anything, I believe, would be 2029. So if let's think about, let's go south and let's rewind. We went into serious design on South Sandusky Street in 2018. And we will start construction in 2026. So the same kind of thing. We're asking for the first pot of money to do planning and preliminary design. Hopefully it'll also include detailed design. That takes a long time. And I know Mel and I talked on the phone early this morning, we have a lot of things going on. But this is asking for a small amount of money to get started. And when we see this project going closer to construction, we should be done with a lot of the larger, the police station will be done. The court situation should be done. We'll be moving along those things. So this is getting our name in the hat for something that's likely 29.
So when we get into budget season and we unfurl these, his is always untangling it, you talk about the spaghetti plate, but you unfurl this scroll and you see years and years of work. That's because we go through different phases and different funding cycles of planning and design. And then we start, like he's talked about, this corpo funding. We've already done corpo funding on one phase of 13. Now we're into a different phase of corpo funding. But we're talking about planning and design for this project. And the reason that I think that's important is, one, I don't want anybody thinking, oh my gosh, we've got all this going on, how are we possibly going to pay for it? It's because we're not planning on paying for it next year.
Yep.
We're not planning on this major project next year. And number two, I also don't want the public to anticipate us going up there and doing whatever we decide on doing. It's not happening next year. All right. So.
But what is the plan for the intersection? Because there's businesses there. Will that,
Well,
is it?
the idea is we are going to work, again, we have met we have not met with the storage units, but we've met with the other businesses, and we're understanding what their plans are and their needs. Some are adding on, some are finishing. So we're working with them to understand what their needs are so that if they're doing design on an expansion, we're putting those lines in our drawings and we're shifting. So we don't know what the solution is. The solution may end up not needing any right of way. We don't know yet. So it will be, again, I expect us, if we get the money, we would use the corpo money and the city match, which is about 20%, to come up with 5 reasonable alternatives. And at that point, we'd go out with full-blown public meetings. But again, we're trying to bring each of these people along the way with us instead of being we're kind of doing door-to-door sales on how to fix the intersection. Now, again, the final solutions have to be approved by design professionals and ODOT, but we have a lot of latitude to bring them in the room and understand their needs and wants. The other thing is, the thing that we've heard the most is how long will it take? And that's where we would have some latitude with ODOT to talk about, well, do we leave one lane open? Do we allow, longer construction hours? Do we tell the contractor they can only work at night and the road has to be partly open during the day? There's a lot of things that we can do to mitigate those challenges. We just need to know what people's preferences are. Other questions?
That's a complicated intersection. Is a roundabout even in the mix?
Yeah, I think it would be. Yeah. So I will, full disclosure, Andrew Pike came in with a big stack of ideas, none of which are roundabouts. So we have the Andrew Pike ideas. We do have, Cameron and I talked about some odd-shaped roundabouts to try to fit in there to minimize the impact on the businesses and also maximize safety. So don't know yet. But, go ahead.
Those special wonky, like kidney-shaped roundabouts, those are better for truck traffic, correct?
They all can work for truck traffic.
Okay.
So I will say that if we look at a roundabout, the design vehicle will be the largest combine that is manufactured. Because that's what they forget when they design a roundabout is how to get a combine through it. So we'll be able to get the full-size trucks and the combines through it.
And they're not cheap.
No, the full-size trucks or the combines, neither one are cheap.
I mean,
Or
the
the road.
roundabout.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
So we do have an application deadline coming up, so
Yes.
I will probably move to push this to the final reading this evening,
The deadline is the 8th of August, so.
which is before our next meeting.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to adjourn the public buildings. We're going to move now to employee and community relations with Mrs. Woods to discuss the code enforcement department.
Thank you, sir. I don't know who's going to handle this, but I had received one question.
Okay.
We have the people who are doing the job. Why do we need a department?
Right.
To answer that question.
That's
And then other people's questions, I'm sure they'll have some more.
Great question. So right now, we have the people that are doing the enforcement but they are not organized into a department. So when it comes to budgeting or assigning duties, right now the city inspector is essentially acting as the zoning enforcement officer based on a letter that I have the authority to give him these duties as the safety service director, if that makes sense. So as you can see throughout this, out the other pieces of legislation from, the waste haulers legislation, 1309 with the inoperable vehicle legislation, we identify a code enforcement department, right? It is more efficient and effective for a government to operate if we can assign duties to departments the same way that we assign certain duties. For instance, the engineer and his designee is the administrator of the stormwater fund. We assign certain duties and responsibilities to divisions of public utilities or public works. This is the same way. So we have codes that we enforce between zoning enforcement, property maintenance. They should be an organized department. It's just kind of a natural, flow of government. Well, necessary for administration. So, in the past, and I think maybe that's what we got tangled up at the last meeting. And Scott, if you want to come on up, a lot of the things that we talked about, and I'll try not to veer off into the other pieces of legislation, but a lot of the things that we got tangled up with were things that were in current code that just hadn't been enforced in the past. And that kind of underscores the need for not only the organization of the department itself, but for us to have somebody to look to enforce the things that are on the books. And I, go back to what President Hawkins says a lot: don't create a rule that you can't enforce. Well, we've done that repeatedly in the past, and I think now we have not only an opportunity to organize the code enforcement department as a true department, but also to give them the budget they need to execute, which will not be anything much more than what they have now, but just instead of, piecemealing things out from safety service, because that's where the city inspector, his budget basically is just pieces of the safety service budget. And then the property maintenance enforcement officer has existed back when Greg B. Miller had the position. He's always had that fund in the general fund. You're going to see those things merge as we go into the budget. And yeah. Go ahead.
Well, and thanks again for having me. I appreciate it. When Greg was there, he pretty much handled just the property maintenance and some of the zoning. He would follow up on some of the permitting and making sure people didn't start work and stuff before the permits were issued, things like that. That's why I kind of did this little printout, and I apologize, I left one part off, and that's the solid waste. I'm going to also be receiving that and taking that from PD, where I'll be doing the inspections and permitting and licensing for the trash haulers and in town as well.
Let me hop in here.
Yes.
Now, let's just make an assumption here, and council votes 7-0 not to create the code enforcement department. What happens then? When we pause on the code, we pause on this piece of legislation, that waste haulers legislation, and rewrite that to where the safety service office manages that. And then what do? I reassign it to some employee, basically just pick an employee that I want to handle that, right? And that's what has been happening in the city for some time. And then when a safety service director changes, or when a new employee shows up, I look to our development services manager, who is also essentially our zoning czar, right? Mm-hmm. Why? Because she's great at it, but that doesn't fall in the purview of her job. Now, it's pieces of it do, and they work well together.
Yeah, Lacey and I have been working quite a bit with the subdivisions that are coming in and getting the plats and getting the permits.
Ultimately, what happens when you have somebody just being like, and you get this responsibility and you get this responsibility, because we don't have the personnel or the structure to do it, is what has been happening in the past is it just doesn't get done.
And Tanner, I think that was the crux of the question I got was, in legislation, you can give it to a department. Rather than creating the department, why don't in legislation give it to that position?
Right. So in this case, we would be giving it to that department, which right now the city inspector would then assign it to whoever the city
Yeah.
inspector would feel the most, the best person to handle it within their department. So if it's a code that needs enforced, well, if it's a code that needs enforced, I guess too long of a sentence, then the city inspector would then assign it to either himself or
My
his
assistant.
assistant
Brian,
inspector.
Yeah.
Right. It's pretty cut and dry, and we don't have to figure out where in the government it should go. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I don't think that was what they were asking. It's like in the legislation, you said that these things will fall under this department. Why not just say, rather than create another department in the city, that these things will fall under this position?
If
Do you
I,
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
yeah, I understand, and that makes sense. Pardon me, tree pollen's killing me right now. Before, we didn't have, see, I'm gonna be picking up, backflow, fog, and grease traps, prevention of cross-contamination for our water systems. I'm also like the solid waste, and I'm doing zoning, which is our zoning permitting for new structures and, new builds and, subdivisions. Before, and I think that's why I've known Mr. B. Miller for years, and I know that it was so much work for him to do by himself. And now that, even though I'm going to have 3 other areas, we're going to be able to, if we can put that together, we can be a lot more efficient, I believe, and be able to cover them a
Well,
lot better.
And let me
Yeah.
jump back in here. Because what you just described is what you do with a job description and not with legislation. If that makes sense. So if you're looking at all of these responsibilities and duties, it's a lot easier, as we can all see, it's a lot easier to change a job description than it is to change legislation. All right? The roles and responsibilities of enforcing code enforcement, or let me rephrase, of property maintenance enforcement, codes related to property maintenance, or codes related to zoning, or codes related to, in this case, waste hauler, legislation or whatnot. Those things belong to the code enforcement department. They should be handling those things in the same way that, responsibilities that obviously belong to public works belong to
Yes.
those divisions. And public utilities belong to those divisions. And the department head and that department get to divvy up the responsibilities. And then the more granular things, the things that I think the person that's asking this question is, well, then why don't we just assign them in legislation to, whatever person? And that's what we've been doing. But the more, like I look at the fire chief right now, we don't have pieces of legislation that say, and the fire chief will do this, 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 and that. I mean, we do. We have a handful of them. But more importantly, the fire chief has reign over his department, and the department has responsibilities to do X. And it's the same way that the flow should work here.
Yeah.
Is we have codes that need enforced. We have legislation that guides us on how to enforce them. And we have a department head, in this case, the city inspector, who will distribute those responsibilities within his department, in this case, of him and his city
Well,
inspector.
yes.
Let's not make it out to be that there's like some 30 people in the
And
department.
this department is going to actually cover, I believe, 4 different areas.
Hmm.
And actually part of the budget is going to be the utility side with the grease traps, the backflow, the potable water, sewage, and all that. That's going to actually be, my budget is kind of, well, I don't have one, but I mean, I'm being taken care
And
of
he's
out
taking
of
a lot of it.
two areas, utilities and safety service right now. And to be able to, I guess, kind of combine that and be able to sit down and do a budget, an annual budget, and actually say, okay, we need this much for like delinquent mowings. We need this much for equipment for backflows and testing and things like that. It would just be a lot more streamlined and a lot easier, I think, to track. I think you guys would be happy to be able to track the taxpayer dollars a little better too.
And I will be blunt, the second part of their question to me was, oh my Lord, does this mean the budget's gonna grow because we got another department? So,
Okay.
So perhaps marginally, but I'm not looking at any major increases other than you also have to consider when you look at the ordinances that we're proposing or the increase, or the, I don't want to say increase, but the refinement of some of the pieces of legislation that we have proposed. We're looking at going back and getting the fines, and I'm even looking at, I'd look at our next couple committees where we talked about, we worked with the engineering department and the fire department, kind of speed off of these guys, but we went out with the help of council and we were getting back the fees that we were not, we were doing a lot of work and not assessing fees on a lot of the work that we should have been collecting. And that's an opportunity to collect those fees and offset the costs of things. So when he's up here talking about, well, I need to budget for, delinquent mowing, or I need to, X equipment. A lot of that is covered with the costs of certain fees or registrations or things like that, will we have to appropriate dollars for it? Yes, but it's the same way that we do with, half of Brian's budget, for instance. It's a huge budget, but a lot of it is just money that comes back through with grants or loans or different things like that, and you're gonna see that here.
And
too.
if I may, the money that is like taking care of my department was already allocated. It's already was there when you created the inspector's job. It's just, we want to kind of clean it up and make it, I guess, more stable or more able to track, really. I want to make sure I know what I'm spending, and I want to know what each year it's going to cost. We're not really spending more. We might a little bit because there's more activity there, but I think things are actually going rather well. For every one or two negative things that I hear or get calls and stuff, I have a lot of people reaching out and thanking me and my department. I'm going to call it my department, because we are doing a lot of things to try to help the city out and stuff. So,
Okay. Council, any other questions? Did that answer your question?
I'm sure it did. And just to clarify, so it sounds like you're being covered by some other people's budgets, and maybe some of that gets morphed
Yeah.
into his.
So
Yeah.
the property maintenance
I like
enforcement
that
officer
idea.
already had money. And then right now, the money that's covering the city inspector, as we discussed back with the creation of this
Yes.
position, is basically being floated by the safety service budget.
yes.
There's
And
been
then utility, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
There's been several pieces that have come out of your office that we've approved that have gone towards
Yeah.
Yeah.
the things that
Yeah.
your
Well,
No, and it's-
department is
like I
doing.
said before, it used to be if someone felt they needed a handicap sticker at their house, they had to get a hold of the mayor's office. Then they would fill out an application, send it into the mayor, then the mayor would probably ask safety service, and then safety service would go ask someone. This way, now we have, and also like vacant buildings, where we've been working on a whole array of things. But it's just, there's no need for them to have to deal with this when you have me and my department, because we'll be able to streamline it and get it done much quicker.
Mrs. Wood, you're cutting into your own committee.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I probably took us down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I do that.
Okay,
Okay.
we're going to adjourn the code enforcement and move back to Mrs. Woods with employee and community relations, discuss fire department staffing. Mrs. Woods.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. So, yeah, thank you. And I'll just throw, the only question I got out about this one, was it originally budgeted? And just explain the need for the growth, but I figured you were going to do that.
Sure.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Good evening, council. Yeah, so when you look at the fire department and you look, we're broken down into really quite a few departments within the fire department, really, segueing off of Scott's thing. You got your fire, you got your EMS, and then the other big part, very big part of it, is you have your fire prevention. And the fire prevention part is going out and doing your safety inspections, your fire inspections, and that's the part right now that we are really kind of falling behind on our business inspections. Our city is growing to a point, and that Terry, and I brought Terry with me, he's our fire marshal. His day is filled up with new build construction, looking at plans for that, going out and doing inspections for like acceptance inspections for the fire department connections, sprinkler systems, live fire. Safety inspections on the new businesses, plans reviews, following up with complaints. Terry is also our arson investigator, so that takes a couple days to go through, when we do have those incidents type deal. So we are lacking getting back into our businesses, doing our regular, quote, normal fire inspections. And that's a big part of keeping our community, not only our city, but also who we contract with, of our businesses safe, not only for our patrons that go in there, but our workers, but also our surrounding buildings that attach to these buildings. So we're asking for another full-time person in that position to support that. It's kind of been on the books for a while. It's been on my radar for a while, especially when we brought on College Township type deal, that some of that funding would help support an additional fire inspector at that point in time. And then also, to go back to the question, was it budgeted for? We did have conversations with this, with the budget. We didn't necessarily budget for it, but we said we would come back in around June to see kind of where our budget falls and where we're at with our funding to see if it's something we should be talking about. And I did that around June or so. I reached out to Safety Service Director and said, this is what the fire department needs as the city is growing, type deal. We looked at it. We had a meeting with our auditor, and our auditor and the assistant, one of the assistants, was in there.
And HR.
Yeah, and HR we're in very good shape. The fire department's funding is in very good shape, and thank you for your passage of also the ordinance with our EMS billing. There for the 24 years I've been there, that our EMS billing has never went directly to the fire department, or has our township millage went directly to support our operations of the fire department. Our EMS billing brings in about $1.5 million per year, so that would help offset the cost of this additional personnel. And as we talked about before, to help also offset that cost is we did also work with Lacey, Assistant Chief Lester, and Terry worked really hard on permitting process for these new builds coming in. Quite frankly, I'd get a lot of calls, and they were quite shocked a lot of times when I would say, well, there is no fees for certain things that relate to Ohio Fire Code stuff. So we've worked hard with an inspection fee. We kind of ran a thing with, like, if we had this in place last month or the month before, what would we kind of generated? And it was somewhere right around about $1,500. Definitely, and I'm hoping that would, obviously increase, far from the price of a full-time employee, but once again, a little bit to help offset that. So again, I'll leave time for some questions. Terry can ask questions exactly what he does. But we really, truly need to get back into, my goal was when we did this was we need to get back into 100% of our businesses and do our fire safety inspections. And I think with the additional of another full-time employee over there, we can achieve that. And then we can also achieve more. Actually, when we get another person in there, we kind of want to change the name for the Fire Prevention Bureau, which is the Community Risk Reduction Bureau. And that addresses all kinds of safety programs for the city, and that additional personnel will help support that function as well.
So council, I'll go ahead and add, so we did get a snapshot, and I can provide you, now this would be back in May, we get a snapshot of what those fees look like. I feel like that's like a standard, Terry, it's a standard month. You'll have your up months, you have your down months, just like anything with any inspections, but that $1,500, of course, that's not, as the chief said, it's not going to pay for an employee by any metric, but that does offset the cost. We were able to work, I looked to our treasurer out here, the auditor and the treasurer, with the assistance of council allowing us to decouple the EMS billing from the general fund. We were able to put those in a park, if you want to discuss that at all. I don't know that that's... Okay, that would be fine. We've got a park wealth management account right now that's got about $1.5 million after we took that and separated it from the general fund, and that receives pretty healthy revenue every month.
Yeah,
So-
we put that into a treasury bond that's due, so almost 1.5 million. It's due the January 31st is when we had the maturity date on that.
Okay.
But so we set that aside just so we know what we moved, and then that fund, that checking account just keeps building.
Right.
There's nothing that comes out of it. It just goes in. So Dan and I were just talking, we'll probably, it's getting up close to 500,000, so we'll probably move some more out. and just keep that going as it builds, just keep moving it over.
So EMS billing is a, a stabilizing force for the fire department. Now, the chief mentioned that with our budgeting, we talked about the College Township, the support that we get from College Township, about $500,000 a year. We took that, and what we were able to do was offset a lot of the equipment and maintenance costs. So then that freed up, the tax revenue, the income tax revenue that we get internally. And then to your question, did we specify this? We had it in the back of our heads, but we didn't want to ask for another position. So we just kind of eyeballed and saw where revenues were. And now it's mid-year and we're doing fine. So we feel like and also council, just to pay attention to the actual finer details of this legislation, what it does is it lifts the number of firefighter and firefighter paramedics in our department. So we anticipate that we will hire internally for this position. It will still have to go to the Civil Service Commission. They'll have to approve this, and then we'll grade that position with the union. We'll have to sign an MOA with the union and get that position internally. It also does some housekeeping to just change the name of the fire prevention officer to fire marshal. That's kind of I think that put that on your radar, but it also does that. And then basically what you're doing is actually hiring a new firefighter. So we're going to pay for that, or we're going to have that position and then pay for a new firefighter. But all of these are all union positions, so they're governed. If you ask, what's the salary, they're all governed by the CBA.
Anybody else have any questions?
Chief, this legislation says not more than 25 part-time firefighters. Do we carry 25 part-timers all the time?
No, not even close. We have about.
But we've budgeted for 25,
Well,
No.
essentially?
No.
Not really?
No,
Okay.
not necessarily. It's
this
just
is a
up
cap.
there, yeah.
This is in the legislation.
Okay.
And I, working with the chief, decided to whittle down for cost-saving purposes and to kind of refine our program, shall we say.
Yeah.
I'll take the heat for that one.
No, we're with
whittled
our
down the
part-time
program.
program. We can't be more than happy with our part-time program
Yeah.
right now, but we whittled it down to those people that are pretty much
Committed.
dedicated
Yeah.
to Mount Vernon and dedicated more to a structured schedule, which brings us down to about 10 people type deal is where we're at with that.
Okay,
Mrs. Woods?
thank you.
Okay, we're going to adjourn
Thank you.
the
Thank you.
Employer and Community Relations. Going to move now to Land Use and Development with Mrs. Skinner. Discuss Chapter 1309, Motor Vehicle Storage.
Thank you, Mr. President. Scott, I guess you're going to come back up and we'll ask some questions.
Sure.
And
It's been warm.
I think some of them have already been answered
Okay.
that council had. But if you could just, again, can you give us a real brief overview of what this is and what it changes from the original?
Well, the main thing that it kind of changes from the original is we have, in our ordinance, you're not allowed to park like on a sidewalk, and if you're going to park a vehicle in your yard, it should be in the, the side or the rear of the property. And there's nothing in there specifically saying you can't park your vehicle in your front yard. Okay, this is one of the biggies. And frankly, if you do that in the city, 90% of the time you're sitting on a sidewalk, and then if you're on a sidewalk, PD will come give you a ticket or have you towed. That has been an issue. We just want to kind of clear it up to be able to enforce it. The other thing that was in here was improved surfaces. I think some of the comments I heard was, they'd be made to put a driveway in or something like that. No, if you're going to park your, your hobby car or something in your back, you have an improved surface. Put a little bit of gravel down, maybe some pavers or something so it's not sinking in the mud. There was another concern about a project car, only having, a few days to work on it. We have 14 in here. It's up, it'll be all, your legislation. So if you want to have more time for them to work on it, I mean, we could give them 21, we could give them 30. I'll be honest with you, I think the majority of the people will honor that and do their best due diligence. And if they needed more time, there's not any reason in the world they couldn't call in and say, hey, I'm waiting on parts, or I need something here, and we would accommodate it. Now, eventually, you know, you got to get it buttoned up. Get it buttoned up and get registration and tags on it. That was the two biggies, you know, that we was having the issues with it. Like we said earlier, there is nothing that we haven't been enforcing that isn't already on the books. These are already laws that have been passed and have been on there for many years. It's just that now that we're getting a little more organized and we're getting a little more structure, we're able to do this. And like today, I made a note. I had 12 calls today, 12 complaints. And it varied from bushes I can't see getting out of my driveway to, why did you send me this letter? I'm building a garage. I didn't know I needed a permit. To my neighbor, and a lot of times it's, my neighbor did this. Well, then you go and you talk to them and they have violations too. So it's not just cookie cutter, you know. You end up being a little bit of a therapist sometimes, you know. I mean, and sometimes I'm the one that needs it because I'm in the middle of all these range wars is what I call them. It just, if we can clean it up, and I would be willing, I'd love to have your input on some of this. I mean, I didn't write it, but I mean, I'd love to sit down with you all and just have a cup of coffee and talk about what some things that we're dealing with. We're getting ready, and this is a little bit a sidebar here, but I just want to let you know, we're getting ready to have our first condemnment meeting for a property. And I have a stack, it's a ream of paper since I think 2011 today to this year on this property. So there's a lot of things that, yes, it's not very pleasant sometimes when you got to enforce the rules, but we do have rules for a reason. And I've been doing that, and I will continue to do that to the best of my ability. By no means do I think one piece of legislation is going to fix everything. And it's like I told the mayor and I told the safety service director, when we started, it's going to get a little bit bumpy. And it's going to be a little bit bumpy. But we'll get through it. And I know, you know, the law director's department has been great to work with us and to help us out and to help me understand the ins and outs of some of this legislation. That's about what I got. I mean, if you all have questions, feel free to.
I have one. You mentioned an individual that you contacted, said, well, my neighbor did this. Mm-hmm. Okay, say the neighbor did something that didn't meet our code 5 years ago. and so, he said, well, this has been there 5 years, you haven't said anything. So what do you do about retroactively?
I've got one better, Mr. President. We have a property over on Hilltop.
Hit the door.
And it has had stuff turned in about it, I think, for almost 10 years.
It's been longer than that.
Has it been longer? I could only find documentation back a decade. But we have, and this, I'm glad you asked this because Brian Marvin come to me and he said, I found this where the previous code enforcement officer had this all wrote up. And it was a substantial amount of money because in our code, it's $100 a day fine if you are, not complying at all. They never turned it in, never took it any further. So I said, you know what? I'm not going to give someone a bill that someone else wrote. So I said, we start now from your first letter, because they won't answer the door. From your first letter, then start the penalties here. Well, when they got, we sent it certified, and of course they didn't sign, and then finally we hand delivered it. So now they know. There's another very large property up on McKenzie that everyone knows the mansion up there. We've been working on it and finally we sent a notice about the penalties and things like that, and they've reached out, and hopefully, I don't know, might not amount to anything, but we're not going to quit working on it. Just like those other properties, we're not going to quit working on it. So your answer is, I'm not going to instill someone else's penalties because I wasn't here then, but I'm here now. So I'll start from my tenure further.
Jay, did you have a question?
Yeah, we only have 2 minutes, so, but I did want to ask you about active repair. That was my concern.
Yeah.
And I dug deeper, all the way to page 2 of the legislation, deeper. And I did see the 14 days.
Yes.
Help council understand what that is. So I have a car, it's broken down.
Yeah,
It's,
say your
it's in
car-
my driveway, it's
Yeah.
inoperable. When does that clock start? I mean,
That clock doesn't start until we reach out and say, okay, someone has called, or we noticed, your car's up on blocks, your hood's off, or whatever.
So you've had it there for 16 months, and then we find out, and then we send you a letter saying that you have 14 days to finish up. And then you finally reach out to us and say, hey, I need another week to get a part. And he says, sounds great.
More than reasonable. We had a truck, and we did Google Earth. Had been there for 3 years. We reached out, said, you have an inoperable vehicle. Here's your time frame. They called. Well, my husband works. He's the only one who can drive this. I can't. I go, fine. How much time you need? I need a month. Okay. Called her back in a month. And they need a little bit more time. So we give them 2 months. They got 2 trucks now instead of the 1. Now, this is not every day. This is not the normal. 90 to 95% of the people, when they get a letter, they go out, they get their tags, or they get it put into a garage. This is a very small amount.
If I jump in, Council, we did see evidence of other pieces of legislation that provided within a reasonable time period or something like that. That is just a opportunity for someone to say, well, that's not, and I look to our lawyer in the room, that's an opportunity for us to, what's reasonable, right? It's in the eye of the beholder. I would recommend, if you want to squabble over the 14 days, have at it. But I do encourage you to leave a time frame in there.
Yeah.
Because then we can say, okay, I sent you the letter here. It's been 14 business days.
And I know a lot of people around this town because there's a lot of people I've sent letters to that I've known for years. And I've coached their kid over to high school and football and everything else. This is not a personal thing. I was brought in because I love being a public servant and I want to do the best job I can do. And by enforcing the rules, that's what I'm doing. And I have no problem at all. If someone needs some extra time, by all means, you can give me a call or call Brian. If you don't like the answer you got, and which sometimes they don't, and they call me, more than likely I'll probably give you the same answer. But if it's something where you need some time or you're in the middle of something, if you just show some effort, we will give you all kinds of time. This is not a time issue. It's, are you going to do it or not? Or are you just kind of stringing along a little bit? So I thank you for your time. You're gonna learn. If you want me
Can I
in the
ask one
meeting, you're gonna
clarifying
have to add 5.
Yeah.
thank you, sir.
Clarifying
So,
question, sorry. So do we have properties in the city? Here's my concern. Do we
Okay.
have properties in the city where the person does not have the ability to park something in their backyard? You know what I'm saying? They're not allowed to park in the front. They're not allowed to park on the street. You're supposed to park it behind, but they have no way to get there.
I think it's very rare. I think most of our neighborhoods have either off the alley or their corner lots on side streets. There's some places where there are curb cuts, and you can apply for a curb cut if you want to. Say you have a house and you got area here, and if you
But
want
what-
a curb cut,
What if there's no space?
not enough
between-
room.
Yes,
Okay, I see what you're
yes.
saying. There's probably a few, but not a whole bunch. The problem that I'm seeing is instead of having that vehicle, they've got 3 or 4 or more. And I understand. I farmed for years. I was a bit of a collector, one could say. But if you don't have the space, you just don't have the space, you know? And that's why I wanted to tell everyone, if we do go to the improved surface, there's a certain percentage that you're allowed to do. You can't just go gravel your backyard. You know, you can't, you can't do that.
Sorry,
No,
John.
you can't, so.
Yeah. I would like to add that there are certain sections of the community, so when we talk about parking on the sidewalk, where people do not have like improved surfaces in their backyards, so they park on the sidewalk because there's, as Councilwoman Woods mentioned, there's, where else you're gonna park, right? There's no real area out front. But what we do is we find, because this was a question that we had when we built this legislation. You zoom out and you kind of take a big aerial view, they do have alley access to where they could improve the back lot. And what we want to do, where it's not such a financial burden,
Yeah.
is talk about an aggregate cost share program with the city, which we have talked about since I was on council. But I've talked with Tom Hinkle about that, where they could work with the city and get the city's aggregate price so they could improve this if they're trying to get in compliance for these kind of things. So it would lower those costs if necessary.
Yeah. And there's
So
a
there are
couple,
ways to come into compliance that's not so.
We are over
critical.
time. I will be postponing the third reading until August 20 or whatever, because I will be on vacation on August 11th. So not in an effort to delay this, but just so that we have some additional time and so that I can be here for that. We're just going to postpone it. But
and like I said before, I would welcome anybody who would like to go along with a ride-along. And I'm not going to make you go out there and tell people they're doing things wrong, but I can show you some of the areas that we're trying to really focus on. And it's not localized to just one area. It's all over. So I would welcome that. Or if you ever want, come up and have a talk, have some coffee at any time. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
you.
We're going to stay with the land use and development with Mrs. Keener. We're going to go to chapter 149, Bambi Management. Bambi Management.
It's not called that.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this is a piece of legislation about deer management within the city. Deer have been a problem for drivers. I know, do we have data? I mean, we definitely have ODNR representative, but do we have data with that as well?
Not tonight, but we can provide that.
I think that would be helpful, but if you would like to come up, and Mayor, would you like to kind of just start how this happened, where it came from?
Just to preface, this is Austin Levering. He is our wildlife officer. And so we met back a couple months ago, I think it was, up here with, you brought some other resources with you. And so we were just talking about, this was a request that came from the citizenry. And hey, why don't we consider deer management program inside the city limits? And so we got together and developed what you see before you, council. And obviously we're having a commission meeting. And what was impressive is that Austin and his colleagues were able to share with us other communities who had successes with this, and was able to dispel misinformation. And without stealing his thunder, if I can just, Madam Chair, if it's okay if I turn the discussion over to Austin Levering.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for the invite, Matt. Thank you for having me, council. I'm Austin Levering. I'm the wildlife officer in the county. Honored to be here. Yeah, and I'm just here to, I guess address any concerns, any questions we might have. The beauty of what we have going on here is we don't have to start from scratch. I mean, this has been going on for decades in northeastern Ohio, Cleveland area. Believe it or not, many people don't know that pretty much the whole city of Columbus is open for archery hunting. Yeah. So I myself actually found that out, within the last few years. And when you think of, archery hunting in an urban area, your mind kind of goes to all the issues that could arise. And statistically speaking, we have, a bunch of data and surveys that show that very minimal issues arise, and the benefit greatly outweighs any inconvenience from what we've seen. Just talking to our deer biologist here a few minutes ago, just the presence of a hunter in an area So for instance, Knox County, we're top 3 deer harvest county in the state of Ohio. I mean, 5,000 some deer taken last year, actually 6,000, up from just a year ago. So like we took 1,000 deer jump in a year. Okay, that's just a county. So think about what's going on in areas where hunting is not taking place. There's no pressure. The deer are very comfortable being around people. Anybody that lives in the city, how many people have deer in their backyards daily? And they've lost their fear of you. That's just what deer do. They adapt, they get conditioned. And unfortunately, as much as we love deer, they can definitely be a nuisance, which leads to all sorts of complaints. That's obviously what is driving this whole discussion, right? The landscape. Take Apple Valley for a local example. Hunting has been taking place in Apple Valley, which is, a pretty densely populated area, and, comparative to parts of Mount Vernon, relatively few issues. I've been in the county for 7 years. I really haven't had any issues. I mean, maybe the sight of somebody engaging in hunting, was really the primary issue. But, no damage, no physical property damage, no loss or anything like that. It's just the perception of hunting sometimes obviously can be, throw people off. But short of that, it's been a very effective management tool of controlling deer populations. The way I see it, there's really only 4 options to control deer populations. You can, basically do nothing. There's contraception, believe it or not, which very expensive. We've seen, and there's sharpshooting, so contraception is actually twice the cost of sharpshooting. Yeah, they all work in their own ways, but the quickest, most effective, most efficient way is going to be hunting. And that's turnkey. I mean, we can get right in there, with relatively low ease and allow hunting. Our agency, you just got to have basically a hunting license, a deer permit, and permission, and they could hunt in Mount Vernon when the season starts. Really, there's not many hurdles. So any questions?
Yeah,
about
I
any of
have
that?
some questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
We've been here 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And we passed legislation here
Yep.
saying you could hunt deer with a bow in the city. Was there a time limit on that? Why did it expire?
My understanding is it was kind of parallel to our deer damage control permit system.
Right.
It was more of a nuisance.
It was linked to that.
Correct, yeah. So this allows people to hunt within the confines of the deer archery season. The deer damage or deer permitting system is for nuisance deer. That's more of a crop damage permit. I issue those all summer long to farmers. There's many active in the rural areas of Knox County. Really, there's no need to do that within Mount Vernon. Honestly, it's a win-win for hunters. They can get a license, get a permit, get out there, hunt with permission. I don't really see any need to utilize that route. I guess my question, do you see any benefit
Well,
to
it's
that?
interesting you say that during deer season, because in their last legislation, the one time they couldn't hunt was during deer season. It could be at a different time, but during deer season it wasn't allowed. Another
Okay.
question I have, I used to live across from Eastern Star.
Yeah,
And Eastern Star had a lot of deer, and they got their permit and they did it. But I had a deer hunter come to my yard and said, if he shoots a deer, and he usually downs a deer, but if he doesn't down the deer and that deer comes on my property, he can't come get that deer without my permission.
correct.
So,
That is correct.
So how's that work?
That is correct.
I mean, the last thing I want to see running around is an injured deer.
Yes, yeah. So most hunters are ethical, and they do take clean, quick kill, ethical shots. There's very few situations where it's a small percentage where we're going to take a shot where there's a deer that's wounded. Most are efficient, and we even talked about having hunters take a little proficiency test on shooting. There's a public archery range at the county fairgrounds. Could go out there and the certification is shoot a pie plate at 20 or 30 yards, and you can show that you're proficient with a bow to alleviate that issue. But as far as the recovery, yes, obviously you do have to have permission on any property you step foot on to recover a deer. So yeah, that is one obstacle, but I can tell you, It goes on in Newark every year. They harvest many deer that way. I was just looking at Gahanna statistics. I mean, they had a year where they harvested 180 deer, no issues. So it can be done. You know, it's done in Apple Valley, year after year. Yeah.
Can we research that previous legislation and see if there was a sunset on it?
Yeah, but like you said, you're talking about a different kind of,
I know, yeah.
different program. But if anything, if you want to look at the empirical data on, I don't have it. I haven't had anybody either request or make a report. Are they doing that with you?
As far as
Asking for those permits for nuisance?
no, not necessarily. No, really. Whenever, like, well, Gambier is another great local example. They implemented their what we call controlled hunt status. They hunt within the confines of the deer archery season, but actually we upped their bag limits within Gambier, so they can harvest more than the county bag limit in an effort to reduce the deer population locally. And that was the first year of it last year. They're doing it again this year. It was successful. We expect it to just continually be more successful.
So we are over on time. I would like to, I'll talk with you and possibly have you come back again for just more questions from council.
One quick question.
Okay.
Is a crossbow allowed?
It's considered archery equipment, yes. But
yeah.
that's entirely up to you. I mean, I would not restrict it myself. But yeah, it's entirely up to you guys. Crossbows are more efficient, more accurate, and yeah, you'd be able to harvest more deer effectively, I would think. So.
Lynanne, I'm sorry.
No,
Do you have another?
I just wanted to clarify, what is the timeline? Is it during hunting season or not? Like
This-
We're looking at hunting during the regular archery season, so it'd be the last weekend in September is the start, and the first weekend in February would be the end.
Okay,
Yep.
This legislation, I think, is typically more restrictive than other communities because of the insurance requirement, the distance requirement. At one point in time, we had gone back and forth about whether or not to prohibit crossbows, bolts, but
Yeah,
now
the
it
distance
permits them.
requirement in this is one of the higher ones that I've
Yeah,
seen at
yeah.
500 feet.
This is
so.
more of a restrictive thing, which they did advise against. But, yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
I apologize. And thank you for coming.
very much
Thank
for
you,
being
Council.
here. We're going to adjourn that committee. Going to move now to finance with Mrs. Seabolt, discover the H2 overhaul project.
Thank you. I'm going to let Tanner take over right now.
Okay. So council, I will provide, you have a packet that I have given you here that will kind of coincide with this presentation. I will provide you this presentation. I didn't want to print it out because, daggone, it was too hot to keep running the printer today. Broadly gestures. If anybody from the public would like the packet that I provided to council, they can have that. The media has that. So here we go. And then I will also get this to you electronically, that way you have it. I do want to say that I broke every rule pertaining to PowerPoint. There's a lot of words on this PowerPoint, but I wanted you to have, the message after this meeting. That way you could refer back to it and not have to watch a video or anything, or you could share it with anybody and they could read it. So I recognize that I'm breaking every PowerPoint rule, but whatever. Here we go. All right, next slide, Mr. Mayor. All right, so how are we got here? And thank you, Mr. Reinhardt, for these lovely photos. That's our wastewater plant. So how did we get here? The city initiated a rate study in anticipation of necessary upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant. As part of our commitment to transparency and effective public communication, we aim to transition from using cubic feet to gallons as the standard unit of measurement on customer bills. I don't know if you know this, but your billing is based on cubic feet. You're provided 400 cubic feet per month. That's the minimum. That translates to about 2,992 gallons. As you can see, why we would want to transition from cubic feet to gallons. It's more of an engineering, I looked to our city engineer, it's more of an engineer's estimate or mode of communication. But we wanted to move from cubic feet to gallons as the standard unit of measurement on customer bills, kind of reflect a format that's more easily understood by the general public. During this process and in coordination with a third-party consultant, which was Census, by the way, we discovered that the cities using, or our existing water meters were too outdated to make this transition just through software alone. And it highlighted the need for a broader system upgrade. So then we asked, okay, well, how broad of a problem is this? And now I point you to your first page here in your packet. The answer was pretty broad. So what you're looking at here, council, in this packet are all the dates of the meters, our smart point changeouts, which we'll talk about, and you know, the lifespan and different things like that. So pieces of information
So
here.
just a question, these are two different items. You have meter and then you have the smart point.
Yes, so
As a separate piece.
this small box up here are the smart points. That is not the same thing as a meter. And we'll talk about that in this presentation. But over here, this large column, these are the meters, our changeouts, and then it identifies in the middle columns, it identifies how old they are, how many we have, and yada yada. Okay. So old meters and realized water loss. Upon further review, the city identified nearly 4,000 water meters that are either at the end of their service life or more than double the industry standard life expectancy of approximately 15 years. We got about 455 of them that remember what the USSR was like. That's a problem. All right. These meters effectively that are effectively the utilities cash registers are no longer reliably capturing usage data. As a result, the city is unable to accurately measure water consumption, with recent analysis indicating an estimated annual water loss of over 50.2%, or 500 million gallons of water. If you want to turn the page real quick and kind of look at that, and I want you to go back to the first page, but there's an example of that second page. That's a 50.27% water loss, or over 500 million gallons of water that was treated but not billed for. That's enough to fill 760 Olympic-sized swimming pools. I switched back to Appalachia there real quick. Sorry about that. This is a substantial volume of unaccounted water, which severely undermines the city's ability to adjust rates responsibly to support utility operations and infrastructure investment. So furthermore, inaccurate consumption data compromises billing equity. And what does that mean? That means high usage customers may be undercharged, while low usage customers risk facing disproportionate rate increases based on faulty meter readings. You've got low usage customers through faulty rate adjustments. They are subsidizing high usage customers. The next, the story at the meter. If you're waiting for it to get better, it does not. All right. According to industry standards, a household of 4 people typically uses around 10,000 to 12,000 gallons of water per month. Within the Mount Vernon utility system, only about 26 accounts are consistently billed at or above this usage level. That was the face I made too, Ms. Keener. If you turn to page 3 in your packet, it will identify all those. Now, again, this is in units. Remember that units are increment up. I looked to our utility director. So the base is 400, and then they increment up from that. It's very confusing. Coming back to the need to switch from cubic feet to gallons. But we did down at the bottom, I think that's where we started talking about, on that page. We started talking about the average number of meters, and we were talking about the meters at or below the minimum. Maybe I'll just stick to the script. How about that? Of the city's approximate, here's a learn of something. All right. Of the city's approximately 6,500 meter accounts, there are about 68% that are currently billed at or below minimum usage. That's set at 400 cubic feet per month, or just under 3,000 gallons a month. So 68%, almost 70% of Mount Vernon's users are at or below the minimum. So this trend raises questions regarding meter accuracy and consumption reporting, particularly given the age and condition of the city's metering infrastructure. So we go back and we look at all of the age of our meters, knowing that 4,000 of them are either at the end of life or twice the age of end of life. And then we look at the usage rates and we see that, only 26% or 26 users, not percent, users are hitting that 12,000 gallon a month threshold, and almost 70% of our users are at the minimum or below. Something is askew. Hello, I'm a red flag, right? So what do? We fix it. The city allocates money, and this was a question asked. Well, don't we do this annually? Yes, we do. The city allocates funding annually for the installation of new meters and the replacement of aging water meters, typically completing 100 or so replacements each year. If you go back to that first page, you can track per year how many we replace. Water, we've done a couple hundred a year. At some of those years you see a big jump. Some of those you see, we've done as low, I think, as 7, and some we've done as high. Some years we've gone as high as 700. It really, there was one year we did 7, and one year we did 737. It really depends on the funding available. It depends on the projects that we have in the pipeline. But we weren't focusing on this. However, considering the industry standard meter life cycle of 10 to 15 years, this pace does not constitute a sustainable or effective replacement program, resulting in measurable financial losses and inaccurate readings and inefficiencies. So H2 overhaul addresses this. This was where we start talking about the project here. Project H2 overhaul addresses this issue by 1, proposing the bulk procurement of 4,000 new meters and 400 SmartPoint MXUs, and we will talk about the difference in those two things in a second. Leveraging economies of scale to achieve significant equipment costs, because we typically buy, I look at Aaron, a couple hundred a year, maybe. Josh? Yeah, depending on the year, a couple hundred a year. You get a little bit of savings that way, not a lot. 4,000, you're going to get a considerable discount. And then additionally, the project also includes securing a competitively big contract for a qualified third-party vendor to install approximately 3,500 of these units, while city personnel, and Mr. Belts, raise your hand back there, that's your AD, your Assistant Director of Distribution and Collections and Public Utilities. His team is the one that's going to be tasked with installing about 500 of these units, primarily targeting our commercial accounts in order to further reduce costs and ensure strategic deployment. Now, you do have a page more. It is the second to last page in your packet. If you're asking, okay, what does a commercial account do for us? I'm not going to say on the record where this was, but this was a commercial account. The only thing we did here is replace the water meter. There was no operational change. There was nothing on the city side. There were no rate changes. The only thing we did here was replace a new water meter, a 2-inch water meter. And you're going to see the change in revenue. So that's just a little case study for you to show what happens when an outdated meter that's not actively collecting that information, and we don't want to put anybody on blast or anything like that. So just showing you what happens when you change out, now specifically, a high volume commercial account, but when you change out one of these meters that's not actively or accurately collecting this information, and you update it to one that is, the difference that can make.
Tanner, did we know this one was defective? Why was this one specifically changed out?
Because we identified the age of that one, and then that was one throughout the year that we chose to, for whatever reason, to change out. All right, now buy a bunch of meters, change them out. I have been asked, wait, didn't we just do this? So and you can look, now I want you to look at your first page again and look over in that small box off to the right, smart points and changeouts. And I'll ask Mr. Reinhardt to come up here and Vanna White some of these things. Between 2017 and 2020, the city of Mount Vernon undertook a significant upgrade to its water metering system by installing SmartPoint MXUs, which are meter transmission units, which are manufactured. These particular devices are manufactured by Census. All right, that is a SmartPoint MXU. All right, these devices use radio frequency technology to wirelessly transmit meter readings to utility staff, eliminating the need for manual data collection and enabling more timely and efficient billing operations. So while this initiative marked a meaningful step forward for infrastructure modernization, it did not involve the replacement of the water meters themselves. Show them a water meter. So that is a Census water meter. That particular unit has about a 20-year lifespan. These are the devices
Brand
that
new
we would
ones.
purchase.
Yep.
Yeah.
These are iPearls, brand new technology. The
I don't know
old
what that
ones-
means, but that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's about a 20-year lifespan. It's got a 15-year warranty on it.
So you're
Okay.
saying we changed
We changed
the sensor that sent the message, but we didn't change the meter itself.
We actually didn't change anything. We added that to it.
It's when we went to the radio read system, so we didn't have to send guys out to
Right.
read each meter.
Mm-hmm.
We installed the SmartPoint.
Now, what Bruce is driving at is, you might ask, why didn't we change the meter when we did that if we knew a bunch of these were old? And that is a valid question. Moving on. All right. As
The answer
The answer
was-
Right, the answer is,
Moving on.
don't know, wasn't here. All right. Anyhow, while this, and I do want to, I'm being a little cheeky about it, but that was a good step forward. Like that's the way you do it now. Like that did modernize the way that we capture that data. Yeah. And that's a big part. And the reason that we only have to buy, you may have noticed, we're only buying 4,000 meters and 400 smart points. Why? Well, because you already did half of it, right? Where'd it go? However, in such cases, you know, if the data is flawed, the MXU only transmits inaccurate data more efficiently, which is not good. Limiting the overall value of the upgrade, reinforcing the need for a comprehensive meter replacement as proposed by Project H2 Overhaul. So, next. You're good. Thank you. Any questions on those two pieces of equipment there?
So we have some of those new water meters in the city.
When we purchase new water meters, are they those new?
In 2 years, the ones that we use now will be outdated. These are the new style. This will be the only thing that's
We
available.
don't have any of those currently installed.
No. So we'll switch to these. That way we're consistent in the future as we change everything out. We'll have one style of meter. So
I'll save my other question.
Okay, thank you. All right, you're good. We all good? I'll keep going. All right. I&I citywide. So what you're seeing is a live shot somewhere else. But a lot of those probably exist in our city as well. I don't want to say a lot. These probably exist in our city. What does I&I mean? Glad you didn't ask. All right. In addition to replacing outdated water meters, the city also, so this is the third part of this project. All right. One, the bulk procurement of 4,000 water meters and 400 smart points. The second piece is getting a competitive bid to install a lot of the 3,500 of those meters with the DNC team doing the other 5. This is the third piece, and this is a big piece. We've been talking about water. Now we're going to talk about wastewater. All right? See Brian getting all antsy. Chill out over there. All right. All right. So, in addition to replacing outdated water meters, the city plans to install permanent wastewater flow meters. These are different. To conduct a citywide inflow and infiltration study, or an I&I study. I&I studies identify where stormwater is entering the sanitary sewer system, typically through deteriorated pipes, through manholes, or unauthorized connections. So I&I increases treatment costs, it reduces system efficiency, and can lead to sewer overflows. Permanent flow monitoring, which is what these permanent wastewater flow meters will track, will provide real-time data to detect stormwater infiltration, guide flood mitigation and stormwater management, and inform big one here, informed capital planning with accurate location-specific information. So this is especially critical as extreme weather events like we've seen in recent flooding in Texas, in North Carolina, in West Virginia, in Lancaster, to a smaller degree, but highlight the vulnerabilities of our aging infrastructure. And we've had comment after comment after comment from citizens in the West End. But look, if you look at the auditor's map and light up the floodplain, this is why we talk about citywide. It's not just the West End, y'all. It's the whole city. And when the mayor and I talked to Senator Moreno's office, what did he talk about when he said, when we were talking about FEMA and Army Corps money, they were going to want to talk about our I&I data, which we don't have. So when we're doing when we're truly overhauling H2O, right? Do it from one end to the other. Do it wastewater and the clean stuff, right? Coming in and going out. So Mount Vernon's levee system, while essential, requires comprehensive evaluation and investment. With new data from these meters, the city can make informed decisions to strengthen its infrastructure, protect residents, and ensure long-term system resiliency. Okay, so how do we pay for it? So the administration proposes using what we call manuscript debt, a tool that allows municipalities now this is going to get numbers real fast, hang tight. And in your packet too, I've offered a few pieces to guide you along the way here. You've got, courtesy of our treasurer, thank you for this. You have got the June schedule of cash and investments. And I want you to pay a lot of attention to that bottom investments, because when we're talking about the manuscript debt, this is where we'll be borrowing from. Or not really borrowing from, we'll be using these investment accounts to help pay for bonds. So basically what we're doing is you've got two pieces of legislation in the pipeline right now, no pun intended. You've got one that allows us to issue bonds, and then one that allows us to buy bonds back immediately, okay? And that's what would fund the project. The question is, what account do you want to use to buy those bonds back, right? And this is up to $2 million. Up to. That doesn't mean we're going to use all 2 million. Now, I have provided you the reserve balance account, courtesy of Ms. Keener asked for this, the legislation regarding the reserve balance account, and I also provided you an amortization schedule based off of interest rates on the bond market from, according to Bricker Graydon, they said around this market, depending on the day when you issue and buy the bonds, it could be anywhere from 5, 5.5, or 6%. So I gave you an amortization schedule over 3 years on quarterly repayments from the water and wastewater department for 5, 5.5, and 6%. Can't say we're not transparent. How about that? Murdered a tree, but there you go. So those are those three documents in your packet here. So the administration proposes using manuscript debt. And that's a tool that allows municipalities to loan funds to themselves with structured repayment and interest, and to borrow up to, underline, up to $2 million from the reserve balance account, or the RBA, colloquially referred to as the rainy day fund. All right? This would fund critical utility infrastructure upgrades and be repaid over a 3-year term on a quarterly basis, with costs shared equally by the water and wastewater funds. The loan would carry an interest rate higher than the current RBA's current yield, but the total would be determined at the time of execution, thereby enhancing the reserve's long-term value. AKA, I don't know if it's 5 or if it's 5.5 or 6, because that will depend on when we issue and buy back the bonds, right? But right now, I do know that it's higher than what the yield is in that wealth management account. And there's a interest sum total on each one of those amortization schedules that shows you, how we'll pay that back, what the payment on each side would be, and the interest borne on each payment at the total of $2 million. If it's scaled back in only 1.5, well then obviously, all those numbers are going to change, but it's going to be at whatever that rate is. All right, so because this financing involves utility revenue bonds, and I think Bruce might ask this question, so I got out ahead of it. Because it involves utility revenue bonds, it does not impact the city's statutory debt limit. It also establishes a debt service line within the wastewater fund, preparing the city for a larger wastewater treatment plant project. We do have debt service lines in the wastewater fund now, but they've mostly been for OPWC or OWDA projects, not for something like this. We've handled bond repayment schedules outside of a wastewater plant or smaller things within that wastewater fund. This would allow us to establish that line and go ahead and start budgeting for that request. And then once the debt falls off from this project, then we're ready for the wastewater plant, the improvements. So we're used to budgeting for that. As other expenses shift to the water fund, that's another thing that we'll do. We'll shift expenses to the water fund, and rates are adjusted. The structure provides responsible path for long-term utility financial planning. So, I can already read your minds. Known you long enough. Are there alternatives? Yes, there are. Alternative funding options include utilizing the same manuscript debt structure, but with other qualifying city funds. So basically, same proposal, but what other account do you want to fund it at? Which is why I want you to pay attention to those other investment accounts, because that would likely be what we pay attention to. However, this approach warrants caution, as it may constrain resources needed for upcoming municipal facility investments or compromise the liquidity of major accounts needed for major accounts intended for large-scale capital projects. Additionally, it increases the risk of fund commingling, which should be avoided for sound fiscal management. And I, again, look over to our treasurer. Our auditor's not here tonight, but they pay close attention to those things, and we have to manage those accounts very carefully. Additionally, the city is also eligible, so outside of this proposal, the city is eligible to participate in the Ohio Market Access Program, or OMAP, through the Ohio Treasurer's Office, which is a good program, and I encourage us to look into that for a different project, not for this one. While this program offers external borrowing capacity, it requires state approval. It involves administrative fees and interest payments to the state rather than back to the city, and it subjects the city to terms and conditions outside of our direct control. So, this is, with 10 minutes left, I'm going to go ahead and drop maybe the big bomb, and it's the question. Yeah, surprise, that wasn't the biggest story. All right, what about rates, right? Because this affects rates. We're talking about 4,000, what are essentially cash registers in the ground, right? Why are we tracking the water? So we can see how much people need to pay for it. So what about rates? As the city evaluates utility rate adjustments to support both operational sustainability, this is keeping the lights on and paying for water treatment and whatnot, and the substantial capital investments required for the wastewater treatment plant, I'm gonna get out ahead of it and say, you're gonna have to eventually be, working on improvements to the water plant too. So, when's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the best time to start planting for a water plant? Same time. It is imperative that we have accurate consumption data to ensure fair and effective billing practices. So given the number of water meters in the system that are currently at or beyond their expected service life, we have adjusted our ongoing rate study to reflect a more accurate financial model over the next 3 years. So when we found this out, we hit the brakes real fast and said, all right, the data that we have is not accurate data, and we know that going in. So what did we do? We built 2 models. We said, here's the model going in that we just know is bad. And then we screamed, and Aaron got me up off the floor for a minute. And then we implemented with the implementation of Project H2 Overhaul, the city anticipates, this is us with a conservative projection, I might add, 3 annual rate increases of 7% for water and 3 annual 11% increases for wastewater. Now, this is what I call the banana tariff effect, okay? Because everybody said, oh, if these tariffs on bananas go into effect, bananas will increase by 19% or some ungodly number. That was 9 cents, okay? So you can terrify people with percentages. So what does 3 years of 7% mean, and what does 3 years of 11% mean? That means that would result in an average minimum monthly bill, utility bill, of approximately about $71.34 when it's all said and done. All right? That would be upon full implementation, starting in 26, 27, and 28. 3 years at 7% for water, and 3 years at 11% for wastewater. It is important to emphasize that these projections were conservative and based on a 5% annual revenue growth assumption in both the water and wastewater funds. Should the project deliver what we truly anticipate, which is probably somewhere between a 10 to 15% revenue growth, these proposed increases may be reduced. All right? So you've got 3 years of 7 and 3 years of 11 with a conservative projection of revenue growth around 5%. If that revenue grows larger than that, those could possibly come down. Does that make sense? Okay. In a world where it's flipped the other way, conversely, and we do nothing and we do not do H2 overhaul, the city would face significantly higher rate increases and potentially extend the escalation periods to meet funding requirements. It's just the way it is. We have a gap in funding and you got to meet it somehow. And I'm going to try to hurry through these next few things. Obviously, we do not have to take action on this tonight. So I will do some FAQs really fast. Do cities normally do these kind of projects? Yes, we do it all the time. It's common for cities to undertake projects like this to modernize aging water infrastructure. I believe the county came in and did something like this, and they were looking at about a 60% water loss. They did theirs, replaced what, 3,500, something like that? Yeah. And went down to about a 20% water loss. 20% water loss, totally within industry standards. There you go. What happens if there's a catastrophe and we use the reserve balance account? That's a question that's been asked. In the event of a catastrophe, and we have used the reserve balance account, the city would retain, that's the ability of us to do manuscript debt, retains the ability to reprioritize and pause schedule repayments from internal loans, such as the debt structure that we've proposed. This flexibility ensures that emergency response and critical needs are fully funded while maintaining the integrity of long-term financial planning because we loaned it to ourselves. We know where we live, right? I don't think we'll be busting our own kneecaps anytime soon. Also, if there's a huge emergency, we do what we do in every emergency, like catastrophic emergency. You go to the governor and you ask for a state of emergency, and state and federal money comes in. So that is not a reason to not do something. Another question, which I can't believe I'm answering. Isn't the water loss actually from the city just dumping water that it doesn't need? That's not how this works, all right? We have a large clarifier. If you look at this picture, when we're talking about the water plant, there's a big, beautiful clarifier. Behind it is another big, beautiful clarifier that is empty. Why is it empty? Because we don't need the water. We're not treating that water. The EPA would be all over us if we were just cranking up the flow in our wells and treating 7 million gallons of water a day and said, shuck them up, no one's here to fill up the truck. So we just dumped it into Kokosing. Not how that works at all. All right. Next, couldn't the water loss be in the water lines? Absolutely. In fact, I would like to commend council and our DNC guys again, because our old website used to say, welcome to Mount Vernon. Boil water advisory, none. It was one of the things that we led with. We used to have a water main break, a broken water main should have been the mascot of Mount Vernon at that time. But thanks to our public utilities guys, engineering, and council funding the replacement of those, how often do you see boil water advisories coming out from the city? Not a lot. Very little.
Let's
Wrap it up.
let's wrap it up and then,
All right.
so we have a 2-minute break between the meeting.
Sure.
And then we'll continue this next time.
So there are very little, and the reason that that's important is because that's not where the water is leaving. However, we still have over 50% water loss. So keep that in mind. Another question, is this going to make everybody's utility bill go up? Not necessarily. While modest rate increases are anticipated to support operations and infrastructure improvements, this project is designed to ensure more accurate billing, so customers are charged based on actual usage. In many cases, this means high usage customers will pay more fairly, while low usage customers may see minimal impact. And then finally, could we get in trouble with the EPA because of this? And that's why I include the final thing in your packet, which is the EPA. Here's an email received by the EPA. They have asked us, and I quote, "Good afternoon. The EPA has received the metrics report for the year of 2024 and nothing else is required. After verifying your metrics report, I noticed that your metrics data calculates to a 50% water loss. If you could please provide a brief explanation as to why the water loss is 50%, thank you." They're aware, and that's how it starts.
All right. Mrs. Seabolt, you're a little bit overtime.
Sorry,
A little bit.
sorry.
Okay, so we're gonna adjourn that committee meeting. We have like 3 minutes before we get into our legislative portion of the meeting. Recess.
Poor fellers.
We're going to call the legislative portion of the meeting to order. And we have an item that's not an ordinance or a resolution that council's going to present and that we're going to vote on. I'll turn that over to Mrs. Woods.
Thank you, sir. I move to make an offer of employment to Zach Sherman for the position of city council clerk.
Second.
And moved and seconded, discussion.
So, does anybody have anything they want to say? We did some interviews and, go ahead.
I'll say something.
Okay.
I thought that Zach was very well prepared, and I think that he is somebody who can really utilize technology to make this position very efficient. So I thought he really is a good choice.
I agree with you. I look forward to having him here.
Any other discussion?
I concur. I know him to be a very strong worker, detail.
Why don't we do a
should
roll
good
call
job.
vote, Mr. Todd?
Ms. Keener,
Yes.
I mean, Mr.
Mrs.
Phil.
Hager,
Here.
Mrs. Seabolt,
Yes.
Mr. Severance,
Yes.
Mr. Mahan,
Yes.
Mrs. Woods,
Yes.
Mr. Ruckman.
Yes.
Okay, the offer will be given by HR to Mr. Sherman, and make sure he's aware, and let council know tomorrow if he accepts the offer. Okay. We should have done this first, but call the meeting to roll call.
Ms. Keener,
Here.
Mrs. Hager,
Here.
Mrs. Seabolt,
Here.
Mr. Severance,
Here.
Mr. Mahan,
Here.
Mrs. Woods,
Here.
Mr. Ruckman.
Here.
We are in order. We're going to have the invocation this evening given by John Todd. He's a chaplain. And we appreciate him serving as a chaplain. We appreciate him being here tonight. Please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the pledge. Mr. Todd.
Our gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the rain that you provided us and the sunshine. We thank you for health. Lord, we just thank you for our city council. The issues that they discuss and the things that come before them sometimes, Lord, are difficult, and sometimes they're not so difficult. We thank you for them and the legislative things that they do to help make our city better. We thank you for our mayor who serves as a leader over our community. Father, we pray that you will be with him and guide him and strengthen him. Each council member tonight, Lord, I would ask that you would bless them. You would surround them. Give them your peace and your strength. Give them wisdom, Lord. And may you come into the meeting in your presence and say, you know, if they need an extra little help, I'm going to be there to give them that help. You walk beside us because you created us and you love us. Lord, I thank you for our city. It's a great place to live. But Lord, we have issues sometimes that need to be solved, and this is a place where some of the work gets done. I pray that you will touch them and you will guide them. In your precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Todd. Appreciate it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Council, in your packet were the minutes from two meetings. One was the July 14th meeting, and one's a special meeting we had on July 21st. Are there any additions or corrections to either one of those minutes? If not, I'd ask for a motion for approval.
I move.
Second.
And moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. They are approved. I see, Mr. Hill, I see no petitions or communications.
No.
And we do have two committee minutes, so they're in your packet for your review. I see no liquor control licenses or proclamations, and we do have three people speaking tonight on matters of city concerns. The first one is Zach Green, our Knox County Health Commissioner.
Good evening, Mr. President, Council. It's been 3 months. I'm back again. It's
hard to believe. It's amazing how quickly 3 months happens. Before you guys started the meeting, you said you're making offer of employment to Zach, and I kind of blacked out for a second because I was like, what did I get myself into that I'm not aware of? So thank you to ensure that that was not my last name. So regards to our data sets, I have to give you an opportunity to look those over, but the one item that clearly I need to speak to is our ongoing rise in confirmed Lyme cases. As we have seen over the last 4 years, our trends in Lyme disease in reference to black-legged deer ticks continues to climb. Unfortunately, at this point in time, we're on a pace to supersede 2024. Over the last quarter, so from April through the end of June, we had 92 confirmed cases, and a total of year-to-date by the end of June was 101. Last year, 2024, at the end of June, we were at 65 cases. So a pretty substantial jump. At this point in time, we're trending in the month of July. We have currently 21 confirmed cases. So we are going to see those cases continue to rise going through the rest of the summer months into the fall. So I can't advocate enough at this point in time the importance of understanding that, you know, you start having these type of symptoms, in particular muscle aches, headaches, body fatigue, you know, things that really start to mimic influenza, and you know, you're getting tested and nothing's working, and you know, it's been 2 weeks and doctors can't figure it out. You need to get titers done. You need to get your blood drawn and have them check you for Lyme. A lot of these cases, as I've preached and I preached and I preached, and I will continue to do so, are unaware that they were even bitten because they are extremely tiny.
Zach, I was talking to the director of our in Knox County Parks, and he said there was a tick repellent spray. Is that the case?
So there are some mitigation efforts and you can do in regards to the spray itself, but that's not going to be foolproof. In particular, bright colors always helps just because they are so small, that being able to determine that. It's like anything else though, they're just mitigating factors. They're not fully prevention. But yes, those are things that we highly educate individuals to continue to do, but it's not the cure-all. So it's important to recognize those symptoms. So I'll keep you guys in the loop in that regard, but it's obvious that our deer tick population is continuing to climb. And as we've looked across the state of Ohio, in particular Central Ohio, we're the leading county in positive confirmed cases. Now, I will tell you, looking at the epidemiological response doesn't mean that they're just in Knox County. We're trying to do our best to educate our providers to determine and actually identify those Lyme cases in an effort to mitigate ongoing chronic issues. So just because, you know, our population may be a little higher in confirmed cases doesn't mean that it's specific to our communities. We're doing our best to continue to identify.
Question I have, and you probably don't have the answer for this, but I get this question a lot. Why do we have a vaccine for dogs against ticks, and we don't have a vaccine for humans?
It's a great question. We know a lot more about Lyme disease in canines than we do humans. And that's just the bottom line.
That seems odd to me, that we can't protect ourselves, but we can protect our animals.
Yeah, Lyme disease transmitted in humans obviously was more of a delay. It was becoming more prominent in the canine populations. But at the end of the day, if the research dollars aren't there, the vaccines don't follow.
You said bright colors.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is this because you can see them, or
Correct.
ticks don't like them?
No, it's so you can identify them actually crawling on you before they latch.
So hunters don't wear the bright colors, though.
That would be accurate.
But they'll be out there where the ticks will be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, depending on what you're hunting for and the time of the season, they may not be as active. As we know, you can contract Lyme throughout the entire duration of the year. First quarter, we only had 7 cases. So they're obviously not as active as you become into, you know, more colder months. However, to your point, exactly, it's important that anyone who's going to be outside in that area continues to at least be aware of it. Bright colors, although great, doesn't mean they're not going to bite you, right? So it's still the educational component.
I just a point as well. I think some people think that these can only be get on you when you're out in the woods or something like that. That is not the case. I know somebody very well who actually got one from bulk mulch. Laying the bulk mulch in the city and confirmed Lyme case disease. That was the only way that would have happened because they were on a city property on East High Street. So it's just not if you just go in the woods. I think, we need to be careful. Whenever we're in high weeds or working around mulch or whatever, we need to be careful, right?
Yeah, you can get them in your backyard.
Yes.
Right? Deer travel through your backyard, no doubt. Yeah, great point. Thank you, Mel. In regards to our environmental health staff, it's a busy time of the year for them with all the fairs and festivals. We did, you may have seen, Knox Pages did a story on a West Nile confirmed case in trapping in the east side of the county. In lieu of just going and spraying, one of our more preventative opportunities is to set traps all throughout the county and find problematic areas and then spot spray those areas. So we did receive our first West Nile confirmed case through a trap. Would have been early last week. Next week is the Community Health Center National Awareness Week. We're partnering again. I think this is our third year in a row for our Hiawatha Park, the swimming pool. We open that up to the community members starting at 4:30. There's a flyer in your handout. It's free for anybody to attend. We provide food and et cetera, and it's always been a great success. I want to say we had over 500 individuals show up last year to kind of end out the season of the school year, or before the school year starts, and the end of the pool. When does the pool close? When's the actual?
17th.
Okay. I think last year we might have been the last day, but yeah, so it's just kind of a contribution and recognition of our community. Back to school immunizations, we're continuing to hit those. You'll see those lists. We have another one coming up on the 30th of July, downtown Mount Vernon. I'm pleased to announce we just hired a new psychiatrist, nurse practitioner, Sierra Haas. She is coming from, where does she come from? The Ohio State University, I believe, is where she is coming from. And we are looking forward to her starting. She'll be at our 206 South Mulberry location, in addition to serving some days in our Danville location as well. I wanted to give a kudos, which I know Scott left. Unless he's still in here. Scott and Brian with property maintenance, they've been awesome. So they've been really working with our team. So I wanted to extend a major thank you for that. And I looked at your agenda before I came briefly, and I just wanted to touch on just what we're dealing with legislation, in particular the property taxes, House Bill 335, House Bill 355. And it takes all of us right now. Local government's under the microscope, and although due respect, I'm not saying property tax reform is not warranted or necessary. I think it's important that we continue to educate our community members along with our legislators and saying, look, these are grassroots, community pieces of our government that need to stay intact. What does that mean moving forward for all of us? And how do you not take a chainsaw to this, frankly? And those are conversations that I've had with our legislators. We need to be extremely mindful of those, and we need to keep our infrastructures intact so we can continue to serve our communities. What questions do you guys have for me?
Without getting on my soapbox, the legislature wants to pass things as far as property tax, but they don't get a nickel from property tax. They, that's not a benefit to them, except it makes them look good. But it impacts parks, health departments, cities, and schools.
Yep.
And so I have a concern with that. You got to pay for it somehow.
Yeah,
And,
sure.
And we need to make sure we pay for it efficiently, but we also need to be careful that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah, how quickly can you put those pieces together before some of our infrastructures can't be put back together? And that's the threat we're playing.
Anything else for the commissioner? Thank you for
Hey,
being
you
here.
guys have a great evening. Thank you.
And next we have Olivia Goth for the Knox County Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I believe Amber invited me just in reference to America 250 and what that means for us in the county and within the city. So if you're not familiar, this is America's 250th anniversary of signing the Declaration of Independence in 2026. And so at the beginning of 24, both the city and the county passed a resolution to form this committee. And so Amber Keener and I have been sitting on this committee since the beginning of 2024 and gathering a committee of folks representing the city, the villages, different organizations that would be interested and invested in local history, arts, and those sorts of things. So the project brief I gave you guys is pretty comprehensive, so that gives you a good snapshot of the things that are going on. You know, the partner projects that have really taken place thus far would be our utility box beautification project with Experience Mount Vernon. That was the Parks and Rec utility box art that you've seen kind of placed right there on Mulberry in North Main, or on Chestnut in North Main, and our next utility box will be wrapped right around the Music and Arts Festival with a music and arts themed. And again, this utility box project is really with the intention that it's a molding of arts and history in Mount Vernon, and so it's not just, you know, a way to make a utility box look pretty, it's a way to tell our story. So it's with hopes that that utility box project continues into 2026, and that will really form directly right into the revitalization of the Mount Vernon Historic Walking Tour. A historic walking tour that we still have signs for, but has been kind of a dormant activity or point of interest for the city. And so along with doing this beautification, we want to just mold those in and kind of create a trail off of that and work with our partners to make sure we've encapsulated all the arts and history we can in downtown. For the Ohio Goes to the Movies, that is a state commissioned event, if you will. The state commission that's running America 250 had the goal of hosting essentially a film festival across Ohio. They invited all 88 counties to have a movie event that really ties into either a director, author, actors that were in Ohio movies. And so for us, you can imagine that quite a bit of our talent was stemming from the Hill in Gambier, but we've just kind of taken a look across the county and how different partners can play into what Ohio Goes to the Movies really means. So the thing we're really excited about is partnering with Mount Vernon Arts Consortium to bring a Bye Bye Birdie event to Ariel Foundation Park. If you're not familiar, Mount Vernon native Paul Lind was in Bye Bye Birdie, and so that's a good opportunity to really engage with our historical society. They have a lot of great materials, and again, that may not be a place that people have engaged with the history, so bringing it out to our community in an accessible way at Ariel Foundation Park is just really more digestible and gets the community more interested on where they can continue to learn those history pieces. And, you know, throughout those partner projects, you'll see that, you know, a big goal is just that confluence of arts and history and how we preserve our history within the city and the county. This is a really kind of, you know, marker in time, so I think it's a good time to look at all our assets, historic and art-wise, and how they can mold together and how they continue on just past America 250. So just to note, you know, objectives and goals is obviously connecting with the city and the villages and the business associations and just understanding, you know, what programs, events, dedications are going on in the city, going on throughout the county that can really be bolstered by America 250. You know, we have kind of these marketing dollars and campaigning at the state level and regionally to talk about Knox County, to talk about Mount Vernon. And so under the you know, highlight of America 250, how can we really enhance the things that are already going on here, or really tie together the things that haven't been, you know, celebrated or talked about. So you'll find more about that in our objectives and goals. So just some related efforts, you know, as we head into 2026, we have applied for an application for another Ohio history marker within downtown for William F. Semple, was a dentist within the Woodward Opera House in the 1800s and had the first patent of chewing gum. So the Ohio History Connection was looking for Ohio first, so I think that's a pretty strong candidate. So hopefully we will implement that by the end of the year if we're approved. And Mount Vernon is also a finalist for Ohio's Best Hometown. So that is from Ohio Magazine, which is it was a very big magazine within Ohio, great readership of over 500,000 folks, digital and through their print. And so having that honor would be, again, just a nice little feather in our cap as we head into 26. And we'll be, you know, doing the marketing working with the state, working with regional partners to make sure all our events are accounted for at these really big levels within these magazines, online, digitally, and making sure that, you know, any kind of projects, whether it be from the library, historical museums across the county, within the city, really get that kind of stamp of approval of America 250. You know, what does it mean? Is it accessible? And is it more of a story that hasn't been told or hasn't gotten the spotlight? Those are things we're really interested in. And of course, we've tapped on, you know, education partners from higher education, you know, what's Kenyon or MVNU's involvement when it comes to maybe Ohio Goes to the Movies or maybe some stories within their campus that they want to tell. So trying to get them involved has been part of our committee as well. And from the youth education, as far as like high school, you know, the state commission has released a 4th grade history pass, and that's been kind of their initiative over this last year. And as they head into the next year, they're really going to be putting together a next gen citizens education program, and that's really just kind of some comprehensive educational materials that they'll be distributing across the state. So again, as we get those materials, we kind of disseminate them out to the right parties that need to know or that have events and want to really participate in a larger way. But you know, for us, I think just packaging it all up is kind of what we do, making that kind of voice just a little bit louder. And so it's very important for our partners to communicate that with us and communicate their goals so we can kind of lead that initiative.
Thank you. Any questions? Appreciate the update. We have one more person wanting to speak on matters of city concern, and that's a member from the public. When the public comes up, we have a limit of 4 minutes. If you need an extension of another 4 minutes, let me know, and we'll ask council will give you another 4. That's Caleb Quinn. Caleb?
Thank you.
I am going to try and get through my speech as fast as possible.
Thank you.
I'm not entirely sure if it's under 4 minutes. I do apologize. I'm not a politician. I can't speak quickly.
Thank you.
My name is Caleb Quinn. I have lived in Mount Vernon for basically my entire life. Hey, John. I know Mr. Ruckman's parents here, actually. They live right up the street from me. I'm a 6-year Navy veteran, during which time I served in the intelligence community and participated in mass surveillance operations against foreign adversaries, including Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and others. So, I have a unique set of knowledge in regard to the particular issue I'm speaking of tonight. And that is this camera. This is a Flock safety camera. Flock is a company based out of Atlanta, Georgia. They sell these devices to various cities and police departments. What's the technical term is an ALPR, an all license plate reader. It is sold under the premise that it helps support law enforcement in identifying things like stolen cars or persons of interest, right? And to the credit of the Mount Vernon Police Department, I spoke to Sergeant Miller, I believe on Saturday, and he is an operator of this system, and I believe they did assist in capturing somebody who was involved in a shooting several weeks ago. However, the benefits being stated do not outweigh the legal concerns which I have outlined in the handouts that I have provided you. As we speak, several legal actions in multiple states regarding specifically the Flock security cameras, but overall ALPR readers in general, citing Fourth Amendment violations. This is your right to unlawful search and seizure, against protections against unlawful search and seizure. In Norfolk, Virginia, just this year, a federal judge dismissed Flock's attempt to, rejected Flock's attempt to dismiss a case, and it now has a court date for October of this year. These license plate readers take pictures of every single car that passes by. It takes a picture of not just the license plate, but the make, model, color of the car, when it went past. All of this data taken together creates what is called a mosaic, right? A mosaic, it paints a picture. In the intelligence community, we talk about patterns of behavior. This is what that documents over time. It documents people going to work, leaving work, going to church, going to school, and given enough data, they can track your location reliably. The lawsuit in Norfolk, Virginia speaks of over 170 of these cameras placed throughout the city, creating what is called a dragnet. A dragnet is where you drag and you scrape data from everything. Innocent people, guilty people, regular citizens, and you place it all into a map to detail their patterns of behavior. The Supreme Court has ruled on this. They have stated in a case, Carpenter versus the United States in 2018, that accessing historical location data without a warrant is a Fourth Amendment violation. Now, I'm not entirely familiar with the exact implementation of it with the Mount Vernon Police Department, but according to Flock's own website, they house this data on their servers for upwards of 30 days. It is controlled by a private company. It is not controlled by the Mount Vernon Police Department. It is housed in a server farm somewhere in Georgia.
Mr. Quinn, your 4 minutes are up. Would you like to ask council for another 4, or are you done?
If I could, I'm more or less finished. I have made most of my points.
We have your written documents. Do you want to ask another 4, or are you done?
Does anybody have any questions? I mean, I think this is a very important matter, and I did kind of go off script of my speech.
How many do we have in Mount Vernon?
As of now, I only know of one. This one in particular is placed on 229, just up there, right across from Riverside Park. One by itself, in some cases, some of the legal cases mentioned in there, is not necessarily considered a violation, but it depends on how long the data is stored. Flock stores the data for upwards of 30 days. The ACLU recommends you get it as low as possible, as low as 3 minutes.
Do we know how long do we store it?
Yes, ma'am. We use the standard block procedure of 30 days. And there are reasons for that.
Sure.
I can explain those if council, I don't know if this is the appropriate time or not.
Thank you for your service, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bring that to our attention.
Yes.
Okay, council. In your packet is the legislative portion of the meeting that was sent to you in advance. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll assume it's approved by consensus. We move now to a resolution for third reading. The first resolution is Resolution 2025-65. Mr. Hill.
Resolution number 2025-65, a resolution opposing Ohio House Bill 335 and urging the Ohio General Assembly to reject legislation that eliminates inside millage and transfers local budgetary authority to county budget commissions.
Mrs. Siebel.
Hello. Did you say it was a third reading?
Third reading, yes.
I would like passage of resolution number 2025-65.
Second.
Been moved and second for the adoption of this resolution. Any discussion? Mrs. Siebel?
Thank you. Did you want to talk about it, Tanner? The House Bill HB 335?
I would defer to the mayor if you would like to.
Oh, the mayor.
We have, Council, I did share this with you all, the background on this, and the Ohio Municipal League has come out very strongly against this as well, and is looking to, for cities to partner with other cities and agencies who have come out against this measure. Yeah, we're not disputing that taxes need addressed, but there are two drastic measures in 335 that would have affected cities greatly.
Does anybody have any questions?
Inside millage includes schools,
Libraries.
libraries.
In our inside millage, if I may, 2.6 inside mills went to capital improvements, the general fund, and some major projects that we have going on. 0.6 mills went to the police pension fund, goes to the police pension fund, and 0.6 goes to the fire pension fund. So we get a total of 3.2 out of the 10 mills constitutionally allowed for inside millage.
Just to explain inside millage, inside millage is non-voting millage when the Ohio Constitution was set up. And when they put inside millage in there, property rates weren't just going crazy. They were pretty much, if not flat, not raising dramatically. And so if property rates go up, inside millage goes up a little, goes up some. But so that's the reason schools and other entities have to have outside millage, which means outside the Constitution. And that's why you have other millage that we have passed.
Property tax is not our bread and butter. There's no question about that. But for some villages, it is. And that's how they fund their entire general fund.
Any other questions? Mr. Hill?
Ms. Keener.
No.
Mrs. Hager.
Yes.
Mrs. Seabolt.
Yes.
Mr. Severns.
Yes.
Mr. Mahan.
Yes.
Mrs. Woods.
Yes.
Mr. Ruckman.
Yes.
By a vote of 6-1, the resolution is adopted. Next resolution is resolution number 2025-72. Mr. Hill.
Resolution number 2025-72, a resolution authorizing and directing the auditor of the City of Mount Vernon to make supplemental appropriations.
Mrs. Seabolt.
Thank you. I've lost my original thing. Is this the second or third on this one?
This is third.
Third? Okay. I move to adopt resolution number 2025-72.
Second.
Been moved and second for the adoption of this resolution. Any discussion? Mrs. Seabolt.
Yes. Well, we've lost our auditor.
Yeah, he has a representative back here, and I can speak to this because we've talked about this for some time now. These are supplemental appropriations. This is money that's coming in to the city, so if you look down through here, we've got several grants that we've received or donations that we've received from different organizations throughout the city or throughout the community. And most notably, and I think Emily, this is Emily Vandebrake. She works in the auditor's office. She's our, what is your title?
Deputy Auditor.
Deputy Auditor, okay. First potentate auditor, however we just organize that down there. All right, so one thing that I would point your attention to is the very large list. You can see, Council, if you remember, we created the 230 fund. So we separated a lot of that grant money. Remember, this is a federal grant, so it's on a federal grant cycle.
Correct.
We separated that from the general fund, so we don't have to come back and do these adjustments anymore. And here is us receiving that CCA grant, or well, really appropriating that CCA grant, and they anticipate that they'll receive that.
The first installment should come next month.
Okay.
Dave Priest was not able to tell me exactly when it came through. He assumed it was the first week, if not the second week in August. I can't tell you exactly what the installments are, but the full amount was approved. These appropriations are broken up into 4 quarters because of their fiscal cycle. So the first quarter is going to be July to December, and it encompasses $131,000. If there are appropriations that need to be moved into the next quarter, we will move those in if they are not able to spend all of them. And all the total for it is $526,000 and $554. So $526,554 for their amount that they will receive as installments for it.
So you may remember when we discussed creating that separate fund and appropriating some other funds out of, removing these probation funds from the general fund and creating a separate fund. This is the final piece of that.
Yes. And the amount that is appropriated in them, in regards to the salary lines, the PERS lines, that is all dictated by the grant. So Dave and Joel gave me a list of what the grant entailed that we needed to have appropriation-wise for the full 2 years. Like I said, I divided it in quarters, approved it with them, and this was what they agreed upon was a good amount to be appropriated for the first quarter.
Any questions, council?
This is wonderful, the court system getting that grant of $526,554.
And that's 2-year cycle. I don't know if I told you that. So their fiscal cycle is July to June for 2 years.
It's wonderful. It was really great.
Any other questions on that, council?
Mr. Hill?
Ms. Keener,
Yes.
Mrs. Hager,
Yes.
Mrs. Seabolt,
Yes.
Mr. Severance,
Yes.
Mr. Mahan,
Yes.
Mrs. Woods,
Yes.
Mr. Ruckman.
Yes.
The resolution is adopted. Next resolution is resolution number 2025-73. Mr. Hill?
Resolution number 2025-73, a resolution authorizing and directing the auditor of the City of Mount Vernon to pay bills pursuant to Section 5705.41D, then and now certification.
Mrs. Seawold?
It looks like we're amending this.
Yeah, and there's a spelling error on the amendment, so this should be, not that that matters aggressively. Yeah, so it's McGowan, not McGowan here. So it's,
MCGOHAN.
there you go.
H-A, not a W, it's an H?
Yep.
It's an H.
Warring factions in Scotland are appalled at what we've just done.
Are you making a motion to amend?
Please, I would
Amend
like
the
to make an
amendment.
motion to amend resolution number 2025-73 to add to it to McGowan, that it's MCGOHAN, and bar vendor in the amount of $3,403 from line number 101-3600-52, employee insurance for insurance broker.
Second?
And a motion and a second to amend this resolution. Any discussion on the amendment? Mr. Hill?
Ms. Keener,
Yes.
Mrs. Hager,
Yes.
Mrs. Seabolt,
Yes.
Mr. Severance.
Yes.
Mr. Mahan.
Yes.
Mrs. Woods.
Yes.
Mr. Ruckman.
Yes.
This resolution is amended. We're back to the resolution as amended.
I would like to adopt resolution number 2025-73 as amended.
Second?
Then moved and second that this resolution as amended be adopted. Any further discussion? Mrs. Sewell?
Thank you. Emily, would you like to walk us through this?
The one from McGowan Brake Vendor? Is that the one you're inquiring about?
Well, let's, if you don't mind. if
Go
you
ahead.
mind,
This
okay.
is my first time, so.
Yeah. We'll not baptize you in fire here just so soon. Todd, if you want to communicate with council here, speaking of communication, we have tried to communicate with Granicus for,
Yeah, the Granicus is our software provided for agendas and minutes for council and all the other public bodies that we have. We pay them about this much every year. And this came late last year, and I questioned whether it was an extra payment. I didn't understand what this was for. This was about December of 2024. They got back to us in June and told us that, in fact, it was legit, and we went back and forth and determined that it was legit. And so that accounts for the 6-month delay on the bill.
so did we budget to pay the software? Yes, we did. Did we anticipate that we had already paid it? Also that we did. So them communicating once every 6 months is unacceptable. And we have farmed out, and I think at the appointment of your new clerk, we did go through a demo, and I've pulled in, the individual that chairs the Utilities Commission, Lacey Blankenhorn, who works with several of our boards. And I wanted to get there because there's more than just the council clerk that works with this Granicus software. But we worked with Civic Plus, who does our website and a couple other products that we have. So we got a quote from them. It's actually about $3,000 cheaper per year. There is an implementation fee. Shocker. But I would also let you know that our Granicus software, what we use now is sunsetting, and we are moving to what they call Legistar, which they will charge us for a implementation fee as well for basically the same company, another implementation fee. And then we'll pay about this, I think, another $9,000 to $7,000 a year.
If I can just clarify, last time I spoke to them on this Legistar switch trade-off, whatever, they informed me, which is why I questioned the bill, that the software that we do use through Granicus, IQM2, was basically just going to become Legistar. They were just going to change the name. So I didn't understand why we were paying extra money for that.
Yeah.
We have been told since my predecessor was on board that this software was sunsetting. The last we heard was it was going to, and this was like in June,
Yeah.
that it was going to sunset in 2027.
We got a very serious letter this time, so.
So, yeah, take that for what you will.
I will jump down to, so that's the explanation for that one. I will jump down to 3 and take responsibility for this one, what we did with the last employee, if you remember, the very intricate detail of employee insurance. As part of that, as we pulled the broker costs out of the premium cost for our employees, and we're paying that just as a supplemental contract for our brokers. And putting it on PO would have been smart at the time. So instead of backing up and running over Marine for that one, that was my fault. So, yeah. And then number 2.
Yes, 2 is, these are typically the fees that we see having the audit performed by the audit company that does it for us. However, with the transition from the previous auditor to the, what were they called? Sam was a interim auditors.
Yes.
And then Paul Mayville, when we discussed budget talks, we didn't have it completely understood on how much we needed to cover these. So we have taken out all of the money in the appropriated fund. So this payment that we are making to Clark Schaefer and Halfett, we do have to pay this because they are currently performing the audit on us. And so that's why it's, and then and now, because we didn't anticipate it being such a large bill.
Any other questions? We don't want to make auditors who are currently auditing our books mad, so.
Please seems like this.
Mr. Hill. Ms. Keener.
Yes.
Mrs. Hager.
Yes.
Mrs. Seaval.
Yes.
Mr. Severns.
Yes.
Mr. Mahan.
Yes.
Mrs. Woods.
Yes.
Mr. Ruckman.
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Next is resolution number.
Thank you.
As amended. Next resolution is resolution 2025-73. Mr. Hill.
74.
74.
74, sorry.
Yeah, resolution number 2025-74, a resolution authorizing and directing the auditor of the city of Mount Vernon to transfer certain funds.
Mrs. Seabolt.
This is the third one, too?
Yes.
I would like to adopt resolution number 2025-74.
Second.
Been moved and second for the adoption of this resolution. Any discussion? Mrs. Seabolt.
Oh, I guess we're going to get Brian. Here he comes sneaking up here.
All right. So, again, when we did budgets, we knew we were going to have to make some adjustments. This is one of those adjustments. We're putting a lot of emphasis on the floodplain study. So this floodplain work has been paused pending this legislation. This will allow for us to continue the flood study on the tributaries. So that is, as we've talked, I think Tanner alluded to it earlier, we've talked a lot about the west end of the Kokosing, but the flood also happens on Center, Adams Run, Dry Creek, Delano. So this is the Dry Creek, Delano Center flood study that we're moving money. Also, the mayor likes to jump to implementation. So we're part of this will be to start looking at solutions. So we wanted to bundle this together so we didn't have to come back later and move a little bit more money to contract services to look for flood solutions. We have erosion downstream of the Main Street Bridge along our levee that's obviously in the south end, not the west end. So this also allows us to contract for some solution-oriented work. Questions?
That's $145,934.02. A lot of
Yes.
money.
That is from one line within the same fund to another line within the same fund.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, we were, the stormwater utility was the last thing that we put together in the budget, and we had overfunded these lines because at that point we didn't have a strategic direction on some of the west end and the floodplain stuff. So we have met with all the folks involved, and these funds are not needed in those lines.
Okay, good.
Any other discussion? Mr. Hill?
Ms. Keener,
Yes.
Mrs. Hager,
Yes.
Mrs. Seavall,
Yes.
Mr. Severance.
Yes.
Mr. Mahan.
Yes.
Mrs. Woods.
Yes.
Mr. Ruckman.
Yes. Resolution is adopted. Now I move to resolutions for second reading. First one is resolution number 2025-71. Mr. Hill.
Resolution number 2025-71, a resolution authorizing the Safety Service Director to apply for Corpo dedicated funds programmed by the Central Ohio Rural Planning Organization, Corpo, to improve the intersection of North Sandusky Street, State Route 13, Upper Fredericktown Road, and Castle Road, State Route 13, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Severance.
Yes, Mr. President, I move to suspend the rule requiring 3 separate readings and take Resolution 2025-71 to its third and final reading.
Second. Been moved and second for the suspension of the rules. Any discussion on the suspension? Mr. Hill.
Ms. Keener,
Yes.
Mrs. Hager,
Yes.
Mrs. Seavall,
Yes.
Mr. Severance,
Yes.
Mr. Mahan.
Yes.
Mrs. Woods.
Yes.
Mr. Ruckman.
Yes. The rule is suspended. Mr. Severance.
Yes, I move to adopt Resolution 2025-71.
Second. Been moved and second for the adoption of this resolution. Any discussion? Mr. Severance.
We had a committee meeting on this, council, and we do have an application for this that is due August 8, which is prior to our next meeting. And I believe this is something that we need to look at for sure. So I think we discussed it a little bit at that time. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Mr. Hill.
Ms. Keener,
Yes.
Mrs. Hager,
Yes.
Mrs. Seavall,
Yes.
Mr. Severance.
Yes.
Mr. Mahan.
Yes.
Mrs. Woods.
Yes.
Mr. Ruckman.
Yes. Resolution is adopted. Final resolution for this evening is resolution number 2025-75. Mr. Hill.
Resolution number 2025-75, a resolution authorizing and directing the city to purchase certain securities and for a supplemental appropriation to pay for the purchase.
Mrs. Seavall.
I'm going to give this its second reading. And you want to have a committee meeting at the next one, and, because we'd like to hear you talk more, Tanner.
Oh, you would?
Yes, so how long would you like to
Done my
talk?
job. All right.
He's got to stand up every Thursday night.
It's a layer of hell where you just keep hearing me talk about this. 30 minutes? That good?
Todd, may we get 30 minutes?
Yeah, this resolution receives a second reading. We now move to ordinances. We first do ordinances for third reading. And the first ordinance is ordinance number 2025-17. Mr. Hill.
Ordinance number 2025-17, an ordinance to create the Code Enforcement Department and to amend Section 129.02 of the codified ordinances of the City of Mount Vernon and declaring an emergency.
Mrs. Woods.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to adopt ordinance 2025-17.
Second.
Been moved and second for the adoption of this ordinance. Any discussion? Mrs. Woods.
Well, we had a committee meeting. Does anybody have any further questions? I think we're good.
Mr.
Thank
Hill.
you.
Ms. Keener,
Yes.
Mrs. Hager,
Yes.
Mrs. Seavall,
Yes.
Mr. Severance.
Yes.
Mr. Mahan,
Yes.
Mrs. Woods.
Yes.
Mr. Ruckman.
Yes. The ordinance is adopted. Next ordinance is ordinance number 2025-21. Mr. Hill.
Ordinance number 2025-21, an ordinance amending Chapter 755 of the codified ordinances of the City of Mount Vernon, regulating waste haulers, requiring recycling permits, mandating annual reports, ensuring secure hauling, and establishing an appeals process and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Ruckman.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I move to adopt ordinance number 2025-21.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
It still says Miller at the
It says Miller.
It does say Miller, yeah. Mike, where are you?
Is the ghost
No.
of Mr. Miller present? Yeah.
That I'm Miller.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Mr. Ruckman.
Thank you, Mr. President. We've had, I guess this is the third reading of this. We had a committee meeting discussing it last time, just kind of going over how it clarifies some of what is there and just cleans up some of the current code. So I think it's a fairly good thing to do, and anytime it's more straightforward in the codified ordinances. I think it's a good direction to move in.
That's a good question.
Yes, ma'am.
So under inspections, it says that the enforcement, the Office of Code Enforcement may inspect vehicles for compliance at any time. Any additional inspections shall incur a $50 fee. So we can inspect them anytime and they have to pay a $50 fee every time?
So under inspections,
So it's,
may inspect vehicles for compliance at any time. Additional inspections or replacement or lost permit stickers shall incur a $50 fee. So this is under secure hauling requirements. So basically there is a, when they actually do their registration every year at that time, that's when any sort of vehicle inspection would.
yeah, but that's not what it says. It says they may inspect the vehicles for compliance at any time. And then additional inspections, and then it does say, or replacement permits. So will the, if we decide to inspect them at any time, do
Right.
they have to pay $50?
No, only if additional inspections or replacement or lost permit stickers shall incur a $50 fee. So here's what will happen. Here's how the administration of this takes place. So if you're a waste hauler and you have a truck and you come in and you get your 2 permits, you get that waste hauler license and you get the recycling permit, that's when you get what you need, that's when you get your inspection. If we find out through some sort of reporting or just somebody driving down the road and seeing that, or you turn in your annual report and there's whatever red flag indicates that there needs to be an additional inspection, we may, it says, it may inspect vehicles for compliance at any time. And the reason that has to be in there is if we find out that there is a reason for us to inspect those things, like if somebody's just driving around with an open, unsecure vehicle, and it's just blowing, debris out of the back.
I get that,
Yeah.
but we can decide at any time to inspect them and they would still have to pay another fee.
That doesn't mean they necessarily have to pay another fee. I see where you're going with it.
It says shall incur, so I'm just confused by it.
Lost permit stickers shall incur a $50 fee to recover the cost. It says additional inspections or replacement or lost permit stickers shall incur a $50 fee.
Change that to may, or?
I mean, it's your legislation. If you want to clarify it even more, you can amend it right there and.
I'm just asking the question.
Yeah, no. And part of what will come with this too is the same would come with, the deer management program is an even simplified administration book that's outside of this, that obviously complies with the law, but is something that we can provide to the waste haulers that's, just a one-pager that just says, here's what you do, here's regular times, that way you don't have to dig through the these and thous of legislation, right? Yeah, yep.
So, the way I understand this is, so if, say you have a trash company that has 5 trucks, and we charge them their $50 fee, and we do the inspections. And we can check for compliance at any time. Compliance is not an inspection. Compliance means all your lights still work. Now you decide to be, as a trash company, you decide to go to get a 6th or 7th truck and say, okay, now we need to go back and re-inspect those. We're going to charge you $50 per vehicle for going back to re-inspecting that 6th truck and another $50 for the 7th truck, or if you lose your sticker. But compliance checks are not necessarily inspections.
Which is why
it says inspect for compliance, but it probably should read compliance checks can be done at any time, and then additional inspections incur the fee.
Well, that's what it says.
Yeah, it does say that, for compliance at any
Yes,
time.
it says inspect vehicles for compliance at any time.
Well,
there you go.
That's all right. I just wanted to ask a question. Thank
Does
you.
that- does that Make it clear as mud.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Mr. Hill?
Ms. Keener.
Yes.
Mrs. Hager.
Yes.
Mrs. Seabolt.
Yes.
Mr. Severns.
Yes.
Mr. Mahan.
Yes.
Mrs. Woods.
No.
Mr. Ruckman.
Yes.
My vote is 6-1. The ordinance is adopted. Next, we move to ordinance for second reading. Is ordinance, first one is ordinance number 2025-22. Mr. Hill.
Ordinance number 2025-22, an ordinance fixing the number of hourly employees in the City of Mount Vernon Fire Department and declaring an emergency.
Mrs. Woods.
Thank you. I move to adopt ordinance 2025 I'm sorry, second reading. I apologize. I move to suspend the rules requiring 3 separate readings and take ordinance 2025-22 to its third and final reading.
Second.
Been moved and second for the suspension of the rules. Any discussion on the suspension? Mr. Hill.
Ms. Keener.
Yes.
Mrs. Hager.
Yes.
Mrs. Seabolt.
Yes.
Mr. Severns.
Yes.
Mr. Mahan.
Yes.
Mrs. Woods.
Yes.
Mr. Ruckman.
Yes.
Rule is suspended. Mrs. Woods.
Move to adopt ordinance 2025-22.
Second.
Been moved and second for the adoption of this ordinance. Any discussion? Mrs. Woods.
We also had a committee meeting on this. Any further questions or clarification? Thank you, sir.
Mr. Hill.
Ms. Keener.
Yes.
Mrs. Hager.
Yes.
Mrs. Seabolt.
Yes.
Mr. Severns.
Yes.
Mr. Mahan.
Yes.
Mrs. Woods.
Yes.
Mr. Ruckman.
Yes.
The ordinance is adopted. Next ordinance is ordinance number 2025-23. Mr. Hill.
Ordinance number 2025-23, an ordinance to revise Chapter 1309 of the Codified Ordinances regulating inoperable, unregistered, and junk vehicles, trailers, and other motorized equipment on city streets and private property, and declaring an emergency.
Mrs. Skinner.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I apologize. Just for clarification, I would like to postpone this to August 25th. Do I need to give it its second reading now? Okay, so I move to postpone ordinance 2025-23 to August 25th.
Second?
Would that be then the second reading at that time?
It will be, but I would plan to take it to its third reading and pass it. I simply ask for this extension because there have been a lot of questions in. I think that this is legislation that is moving in the right direction. I just seek a little bit more clarity, but I think that a lot of the questions have been answered, so I feel confident in this ordinance, but I would like to see it through to completion. So that is why I'm asking for that postponement.
So there's a motion to postpone this to the second meeting in August. Any other discussion? Mr. Hill.
Ms. Keener.
Yes.
Mrs. Hager.
Yes.
Mrs. Seabolt.
Yes.
Mr. Severns.
No.
Mr. Mahan.
Yes.
Mrs. Woods.
Yes.
Mr. Ruckman.
Yes.
By a vote of 6-1, this ordinance is postponed. Next ordinance is ordinance number 2025-24. Mr. Hill.
Ordinance number 2025-24, authorizing an ordinance authorizing the issuance of self-supporting utility revenue bonds in the amount of not to exceed $2 million for the purpose of acquiring and installing water meters and paying other costs of implementing the water and wastewater utilities H2 overhaul project, authorizing and approving related matters, and declaring an emergency.
Mrs. Seabolt.
I give this its second reading.
This ordinance receives a second reading. The final ordinance this evening is ordinance number 2025-25. Mr. Hill.
Ordinance number 2025-25, an ordinance authorizing and creating Chapter 149 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Mount Vernon, white-tailed deer management within the City of Mount Vernon, Ohio, and modifying ordinances in conflict.
Mrs. Skinner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to give ordinance 2025-25 its second reading, and can we have just a 10-minute committee meeting?
You won't be here, right?
No, I will not, because I'll be on vacation.
You want to still have them?
I think that council has additional questions.
Okay. So this ordinance receives a second reading. Now, that concludes the legislative portion of the meeting. Now we move to remarks from administration. Mayor Starr.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pretty cool in this building right now. So we have a chiller that is not working well, but Mr. Alberts and Mr. Hinkle are on top of it, and so they've been working on that today. And anyway, so apologize for the elevated temperatures, but too bad you weren't here at 7:30 in the morning. It was a little bit different call then. Anyway, the council and also at your desks, I gave you a MORPC update. We did have MORPC come in last week and give us their annual, this is your ROI, and so we're really, really thrilled with that. urge you to take advantage of the benefits that Morpsey offers. If you have any questions, let me know, or you can reach directly out. As members, you can reach out directly to the leadership there. This Friday, First Friday, we will be honoring volunteers, city volunteers. It is no secret, they already know, and we will be honoring 3. We'll have a press release coming out on Wednesday. Posthumously, we're going to honor Paul Acitelli. If you remember him with Knox DD, he raised a great deal of funds for different charities and different causes, true servant's heart, and so he's one of the gentlemen that we're going to honor. The second is going to be Heather Barber, who is a physical education teacher. Note I didn't say gym teacher, I said physical education teacher. And she is also on our recreation board doing a terrific job, and has also spearheaded and executed the Safety Town bicycle safety program that will also be on display at First Friday over by the Pack United tent by Flappers. And also there will be a Safety Town event on Sunday at the Schnormeyer Event Center from 1 to 3, where she's basically gone out and raised money to build buildings like Knox Community Hospital and build roads so that the kids can learn bicycle safety. Nick Murda from our community relations, I guess, if you will. Community relations? Yeah, community relations. Nick Murda has been involved with that as well. So it's a great partnership. And then the third is Nellie Six Productions for all of the work that they have done in bringing arts to this community and giving artists the opportunity to exercise their creative muscle. We thought it was also very important that they were honored as well. And so that'll start at 6 o'clock on Friday down at the South Stage. There will be lots of other activities going on, but if you care to come on out, that would be terrific. Lastly, I would like to congratulate Todd for finishing his tenure as council clerk, and we're both anxious to get started on some other projects together. So thank you all.
Mr. Cyrus.
Thank you, Mr. President. Big things are happening in the city of Mount Vernon. We've had a heavy agenda. We still have a heavy agenda. There's more things to come. But I appreciate you all for working through this. It's not easy, but if you think it's not easy in here, you should deal with the meetings that we have throughout the day. So we'll be beginning the budgeting process to have another involved budget process like we had last year. I anticipate that it'll even be cleaner and more information available to you. And I think it went well last year, but the anticipation this year is to have it to you sooner, and that way we can have, not try to do it with our hair on fire and threaten to bring you in here on Christmas and whatnot. Yeah, so you weren't here for that. That was fun.
I was wondering what happened to your hair.
Yeah. A lot of big things coming through Parks and Rec now. Spending a lot of money, and if we don't, it'll be Lynette's fault. So anyway, but speaking of major projects, we've got the cemetery expansion going on. So looking at an additional 1,200 long-term vacation spots in the cemetery that can be yours. Additionally, today we signed the plat for, or not should say plat, should say the project design for the what I like to call the Tom Hinkle Memorial Salt Barn. That's 6 years in the making. So moving big things along, and I just really appreciate council for dealing with us as we get it all together and get it in front of you. So that's all, Mr. President. Thank you.
Mr. Stoller.
Nothing tonight, Mr. President.
Miss Deputy Auditor.
Nothing further tonight.
All right. Miss Whitney.
It's always nice to join you here, and our office is moving forward. I'm back. We have a third attorney, so things are looking up.
Mrs. Sable.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Mrs. Woods.
Just a couple things. For our next meeting, sorry, I'm looking right at you. And
It's the glare.
It's
I
the
know.
glare.
2 bald jokes in one night. Daggone.
No,
All right.
no. So when it comes to the water meters, I'm assuming the ones that are 10 years old we're not touching.
No, anything, yeah, that's
Is there-
15 and beyond.
Is there a way to find out in that range that won't be replaced, what percentage of those right now pay the minimum?
That'd be, yeah, it'd be hard to do, yeah.
Okay. I'll have a follow-up to that one then.
Okay.
Okay, today I had the pleasure, and that's a joke, the pleasure of sitting through a 6.5-hour presentation of the state budget that was just passed. I say that to say this. One of the speakers is Howard Fleeter. You might remember Howard Fleeter. He's a genius. He knows more about taxes than anybody will ever learn again, but was talking about, the House bill that we passed the resolution on is one of the most devastating things to ever be attempted in the state of Ohio, and should that be passed, it would make Ohio unrecognizable. So I just want to appreciate everybody up here, say thank you for passing that piece of legislation tonight. Mr. Mayor, after I left the meeting last time, my phone rang as soon as I sat in the car and turned the volume on. This woman, we were talking about the bicentennial, and the thing she remembers the most was at noon on July 4th, 1776, every church bell in the county rang at the same time, and she would like you to make that happen again. So there you go. Thank
Well,
you.
we can also pass that on to Olivia,
There
who's
you
chairing
go.
the committee.
There you go. That's all. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Severance?
I would just second Mrs. Wood's thoughts on this House bill. Sometimes I just kind of scratch my head and think, what are we doing? And this would be extremely detrimental to not only our community, but to many others, especially those that absolutely depend on that. I just don't get it sometimes. So it seems like a total no-brainer that this bill should not go through anyway. So that's it. Mr. Hill, thank you for your service.
Ms. Keener?
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 335 will not be going through as it stands right now. And I think that the goal that legislators had, which was not necessarily a great one, was to offset the initiative to eliminate property tax. So eliminating property tax, while it on the surface sounds good, will be very challenging for the whole state of Ohio. But at the same time, I think legislators were trying to offset that. So just a little bit about what happens in Columbus, just to give a reference point for why that bill existed in the first place.
Mr. Ruckman?
Nothing this evening, Mr. President.
Mr. Mahan? Mr. Mahan?
Nothing this evening, sir.
Ms.
Can you
Hager?
tell that your chair is a little different tonight, though, Mr. Mahan?
I haven't fallen out of it even once. We got it replaced.
Mystery chair.
Mrs. Hager?
I have a couple of things. I wanted to remind the public about a free Fantastic Family Dance Party that's this Saturday, August 2nd, at the Ariel Foundation Park in the Schnormeyer Event Center from 4 to 5:30. It's a kid-friendly dance club with pop music, dancing, character meet and greets, and free ice cream. I also want to remind people that starting today for the next month, community members have dog fountain-inspired art on display in the Schnormeyer Gallery, plus dog and fountain-focused art making is underway in the annex. And this is all in celebration of the 5th anniversary of the South Main Plaza. And stop by and see the beautiful art celebrating one of Mount Vernon's most wonderful treasures, especially this Friday night at First Friday, which is, of course, the dog days of summer. And I just wanted to remind people there are 90 tickets left for Jay Leno, and you really want to have a good laugh and take advantage of that. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hill, for your service to this council
Thanks, Todd.
as we move forward. Thank you, the media, for being here this evening. That being said, I call for adjournment.
So move.
Second.
Then moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We are adjourned.